What's up, Lords? Um, Before we get started, first of all, thank you for joining us. Um, Before we get started, I wanted to say a few words, if you all would indulge me. Um, a few days ago, um, my family lost my uncle, Noel Query Jr., my Uncle Danny, as we call him. If you hear a lot of noise in the background, it's my daughter playing with her Girl Scout troop, and they're over visiting in the house right now. Um, my uncle Danny was a real special person in life, and specifically to our family, and specifically to me. Um, I can't sit here and go through with all of you all the things that he's done and all the things that he meant to our family. Um, I will tell you this. Um, my family moved here from New York when I was younger, and one of the things, we moved to a part of Florida that is bereft of everything, culture, history, Black culture, history. Didn't exist, particularly at that time. Um, my uncle would get VHS tapes. If you don't know what a VHS tape is, Google it or ask your parents or something. But he would get VHS tapes and record, not just on the 2 hour mode, but like the XP mode, uh, uh, 6 hour videotapes. He would record um, various programs from television for me, such as uh, Gil Noble's Like It Is, um, lectures by Dr. John Henrik Clark, lectures by Dr. Leonard Jeffries, um, the speeches of Malcolm X, the speeches of Martin Luther King, documentaries about each of those men, Black history programs. He would meticulously, for hours, record all of these programs and periodically send them to me, mail them to me. And I would just watch them continuously and repeatedly, because there was no really mechanisms for those types of things in Florida at the time, at least where I was living. Um, but it had a tremendous influence on me, particularly at a time that um, was very my formative years. It helped to reinforce and instill my Black consciousness, or reaffirm it, I should say, in the midst of where I was living at the time. Um, and I learned a lot of lessons in that. And I always appreciated the fact that he went through the effort to do that for me. Not in a preachy way, just here's some things you should check out. And I would. Um, and it had a valuable impression on me that I carried throughout the rest of my life. Um, why do I bring all this up? Because if it weren't for him and those lessons he would give throughout my life, um, I'd probably be a very different person today. I certainly think those lessons are what drive me to do what I do now with all of you on this channel each week in Black Comic Lords. So I just wanted to give a shout out and a dedication to my Uncle Dan. Rest in power, King. And we are back with another fantastic episode of Wakandan Whiskey and Blurred. I'm your host, Paul. With me as my partner as usual. It's my boy Mark. What's
What's
up?
going on? Shout out to your Uncle Danny, man. Your family has my deepest condolences at his loss. I don't know and I don't remember if I met him, but if he was at your wedding, I'm sure I did.
I'm pretty sure you have met him either at my wedding or
At your
at
grandmother's house.
graduation at my grandmother's house. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Paul's grandmother, I used to hang out at Paul's grandmother's house. Me and Paul have known each other for going on pretty close to 30 years at this point, and we went to law school together. And Paul, being from Jamaica originally, as he just said, his family lives in New York, but he had family in Miami. And his grandmother, God rest her soul, lived in Miami. And I think he stayed with her for a period of time. But
Yeah.
I would go to his grandmother's house to visit her. I lost my grandmother a long, long time ago. So she was somewhat of a surrogate grandmother to me. And I love that woman. I think she actually liked me better than she did Paul, but don't tell him I said that. But if his uncle was over there at the house, I definitely met him. So yeah, shout out to your family.
Yeah, she liked you too.
Yeah, I love that woman.
Rest in
But
peace to her as well.
but to start, to get into things, a couple of things. First off, before we get into the comic books, exactly 4 years, exactly 4 weeks from today's date, Roger Fortson was murdered in his own home, holding his legally owned firearm, not breaking the law. The officer who shot and killed him, I don't know if his name has finally been released, but I did see that he has been fired for violating policies of the department that he now formally works. Now what we need is for him to be charged, arrested, and tried for the murder of Roger Fortson. And that's something that I really, really want to happen. I'm surprised with Benjamin Crump being involved that there haven't been any marches or anything yet, but that needs to happen sooner rather than later. RIP to Roger Fortson. Secondly, today is the 103rd anniversary of the destruction of Black Wall Street in my hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma. They used to call it they used to call it a race massacre, but it wasn't really. That's what they call it now. They call it a race massacre because basically that's exactly what happened. Um, Allegedly, there was a young black kid who was accused of raping a white girl. We've all heard the story before. Rosewood, which is down there in Florida. There's a movie starring Bing Rames that you guys know about. The story is old as time. Black man accused of raping a white girl. So basically, what happened is black citizens were trying to prevent him, the young man, from being to the jail to protect him. Somehow fired, and then this was so the white girl crazy, right? And they destroyed North Tulsa. North Tulsa is where the black folks live, thanks to American colonialism. But they had their own economic system, which was Black Wall Street. Businesses such as banks, movie theaters, hotels, they kept their money in the black community. All of that was destroyed. It's untold amount of lives, literally billions of dollars lost, and nobody was ever held accountable. There was never any trials. There was never anything done to compensate the victims. In fact, I believe that there is one victim left who was a child at that time, of course, who is still living. And she has never been compensated. No family has ever been compensated. And that particular area of Tulsa, where Black Wall Street was, they took the city took that land and put a highway right through it, right? One of the major thoroughfares in Tulsa runs right through Black Wall Street, thanks to them taking that. So this is the 103rd anniversary. There's a book on this that I have a picture of. It's called The Burning by Tim Madigan. And what's interesting to me about this book, when you first pull it up, when you go to the forward, I guess it is. I was reading this book about 5 or 6 years ago. And to be honest with you, I haven't finished it because it's very emotional. It's very powerful. But as I'm reading the book in the forward, the author is interviewing a woman, right? And the name of the woman has a very unique name. And that name happens to be shared by one of my childhood friends. So I sent him a text message. I'm like, hey, do you know who this person is? He was like, yes, my grandmother. His mother's mother, I'm sorry, I mean that. His father's mother was interviewed in this book, and obviously when she was living back in the 80s, I guess it was, when she was interviewed. He was a Tulsa resident. His family goes back to Tulsa decades. My family did not. My mom moved to Tulsa after graduating from high school. So we didn't have the history in Tulsa knowing about Black Wall Street. I was raised in Tulsa, went to school there from kindergarten through 12th grade. I did not learn about Black Wall Street. I did not learn about the massacre until I was an adult. And I'm talking within the past 7 years is when I learned about it. It was
Hold on, Mark. There are people are saying they can't hear you. There's a lot of background noise. Or
that's because the stuff going on.
let
But
me
can you
mute myself.
hold on a second? Yes, that's a lot better.
Go ahead.
All right. So basically, being in Tulsa, kindergarten through 12th grade, I was never taught anything about Black Wall Street. I was not taught about the Tulsa Race Massacre. That was something that was completely obliterated from Oklahoma history. I grew up 5 miles from this area and never knew about it until I was an adult. Now, thankfully, over the past, 7, 8 years, Tulsa has been featured in pop culture. If anybody watched Lovecraft Country, towards the later episodes, when they went back in time to Tulsa, Oklahoma. If you remember, they were showed up at a prom, or some people were getting ready for a prom for Booker T. Washington High School. That was my high school. If you watch The Watchmen, although filmed here in Atlanta, was set in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The series, I'm sorry, the city Tulsa has appeared in Bitterroot, which is why I liked it so much because my city was featured there, and it had a shout out in what was that book? One of the milestone books. I can't remember what it is now, but it made an appearance there. But I say all that to say this is part of history. This is part of American history. Black history is American history, and there are sources out there that if you want to learn about Black Wall Street, the Tulsa Race Massacre, there's information out there for you to learn. And today, as I said, is the 103rd anniversary of that happening. So I just wanted to bring that to folks' attention.
Let's go into our chat. A lot of people here. King Sigma, what's up, man? Dr. Wizard, how you doing? Happy birthday. Everyone give a shout out to our producer, Derek, aka Dr. Wizard, aka the Imperious Flex. It's his birthday today. So happy birthday to the Imperious Flex. Dothverse, salute. I Manifesto, welcome.
What's going on?
Pericles Dragon Ball. Thank you, sir. Cancelaria Grezorxic. I'm probably murdered your name. I apologize, but welcome. I don't recall seeing you here before. If you're new, welcome.
Sounds like a Russian. He's over there behind the Iron Curtain.
Well, let's just hope it's not a bot. Dothverse. Yes, thank you. He was the best of us. Bo Biggs in the house. What's up, sir? He mentioned audio problems. Can we turn the brother up just a little? What's he saying is so important.
Oh, hold on a second. Turn that up. Yeah.
I
Like I
don't
said, Paul
believe.
has a lot going on over his house. His house is party central right now.
Yeah, I got
Okay, hold on.
the.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Let me stop something with the I manifesto. I manifesto. What you need to understand is that Benjamin Crump is not a prosecutor. Okay. In law, there are two different mainly sections. You have criminal law and you
You
have
sound
civil.
like Law and Order right now, but go ahead.
But I got to correct the record. So basically, what Benjamin Crump does, he doesn't try to prosecute cops. That's not his job. His job is to try to get money from the city, from governmental agencies on behalf of those who have been victimized civilly. Okay. What he does is he sues, he doesn't prosecute. Okay. So you need to understand that that's not Crump's job to try to get these cops, to try to get convictions on these cops. Okay. So don't think that.
All right. Also, while you're watching this, I know we're getting a bit of a rough start here. Would greatly appreciate if you guys just take a second, hit the like button, share this video if you're on social media right now. Just hit the share button, and certainly if you're not subscribed to our channel, we got some new people here. Looking at you, Cancelaria. If you're a real person, please subscribe to the channel. All right.
One final thing we're going to talk about
What?
Major League Baseball.
Major League Baseball. I just want to finish out these comments. Good evening to Bot Boy. Happy Earth Day to Derek from Dothverse. iManifesto says much of the story around the attack on Greenville district of Tulsa is surrounded by myth.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Bot Boy Versus says happy birthday to Derek as well. iManifesto says similar incidents happened across the country,
That
unfortunately.
is
This is
correct,
true.
and there are a lot of them, especially in the past, back in the '80s, when Paul and I were in school. These incidences were not taught. We're getting, because we're at a time in history where we have more access to information uh, in the history of the world. We can learn about these things now, but back then, what you had was whatever's broadcast on your nightly news, in your newspapers, or in your encyclopedias, which were typically 10 to 20 years behind whatever current events were going on.
Right.
So, we can get that information now, but it wasn't the case back then.
Yeah. Or if you live in Florida, you're not getting that information now with our current governor.
Right, right.
iManifesto thanks you for your professional knowledge and context.
Not a problem, not a problem.
We charge $300 to $400 an hour. All right. So the other thing you want to talk about was the baseball thing.
Baseball.
We're getting into a lot of topics before we even get into our Wakanda
I know,
stuff.
right?
So
'Cause we
it's
didn't
still
have that many
coming,
comic
everyone.
books.
Just bear with us. We're just changing the format a little different tonight. But I promise you, we are going to get into our Wakanda. We got some big stuff with Black Panther and Blood Hunt this week, Midnight Suns and Night Thrasher and books like that. Just bear with us. But there's other things. Sometimes we like to do some edutainment in this space. So
Didn't KRS-One coin that phrase?
he's the first one I ever heard use that term.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see.
So basically, for those, okay, so I'm a sports fan, specifically football, college, and pro, right? I'm not a baseball fan at all. But something significant happened this week. As you may or may not know, America has not always been this lovely bastion of togetherness that we are now. The racial
We are.
harmony, the racial harmony that we are experiencing in 2024 was not always the case. Baseball has been around for over 130 years in this country at this point, and because of American apartheid, black athletes were not allowed to participate in American baseball, which was basically white folks, right? So they had their own leagues, and it wasn't just one league. There were different types of leagues. Just like with football, you have the Arena League, you have the USFL, et cetera, et cetera. That was the case with American baseball. But there was a commission started by MLB to narrow down which leagues that they were going to recognize and incorporate the records from those leagues into the history of Major League Baseball. So it's not just white folks who are at the top of these lists, right? So now, because of this that has occurred, Josh Gibson right now is, I think he's the batting average leader now. Ted Williams, used to be the guy, but because there was a separation or segregation, Josh Gibson's records were not included until this week. There's a picture of Josh that I sent as well. But these are some of the things, Paul, that list that he just had up, it just showed how some of the list has changed. That's Josh Gibson right there. And there was a movie back in 1976 that starred Billy D. Williams, James Earl Jones, and Richard Pryor called The Bingo Long Traveling All Stars and Motor Kings. That movie is about the Negro Baseball League. It was a phenomenal movie. If you can find it, I would encourage you to watch it. And James Earl Jones' character was basically Josh Gibson. They didn't say that, of course, because this was not a biographical picture, but that's basically who James Earl Jones' character was, because he was a big, powerful hitter, and they modeled him over over Josh Gibson. So I just thought it was important to note that now the black folks' history has not been erased and has been included in the history books of Major League Baseball. And I think that's a pretty big deal.
And already
Oh,
started to alter the stats as a result.
right. And as an aside, the hat that I'm wearing right now that I bought this week is from the Negro League, the KC Monarchs. The KC Monarchs were the first Negro League team, and they won the first Negro League World Series. And I want to say that they won at least 10 Negro League championships. So shout out to the KC Monarchs. Shout out to the Negro League players, their families, and there are at least 3 former Major League Baseball players who are still currently living. So shout out to them. Shout out to the KC Monarchs because they're close to Oklahoma. And shout out to the history books being modified.
Well, all right. What's that T-shirt you're wearing?
X-Force.
Hold on, let me see. Which X-Force is that?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Hold on, let me make you big.
You got Magneto. You got Wolverine.
Magneto?
Right here.
When the hell was Magneto a part of X-Force?
They just put some stuff on a shirt and called it X-Force. I bought it because it was inexpensive, so I didn't care about who was on it. It was like buy one get 150 off at like Hot Topic or something.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Hype style.
Hold on, let me just say this. You kids don't understand how good you have it right now. Paul and I have said this many times. Nerd culture, comic book culture is ubiquitous. No matter where you go, you can go into any mall in America and you can find no less than 5 different stores in the mall that sells nerd related stuff. We're talking about t-shirts, pop figures, action figures, manga, a whole bunch of stuff. You guys have it good. Back in our day, it was rare that you could find the type of stuff that we were into. You would have to go to specialized shops, like a comic book shop, if they even existed, if you even knew where there was one to buy this type of stuff. But we're living in some great days when it comes to nerd culture. So yeah. I agree with the hype style. Can't hear you, Paul. Can't hear you, Paul.
Wow, I just said all that for no reason. Anyway, salute Black Comic Awards. This is a great step by the MLB to bring the Negro League records into the official stats. Now there needs to be a black owner of an MLB team with a Negro League's name. Indeed.
Yep.
All right. So now that we have completed that portion, we get into Black Panther Wakanda talk. Had some books that came out this week. I'd like to talk about it.
If you're not collecting Blood Hunt, you are missing out.
Oh, before we get into all that, we got to talk about, gosh darn it. Derek. It's your birthday, so I'm not gonna talk bad about you today.
It's
You know what
also
I'm
my
about to say.
boy's birthday. Shout out to Jamil. Happy birthday to you.
Shout out to Jamil. All right. So we're gonna talk some comics. We're gonna talk specifically about the Black Panther Blood Hunt book. And yes, there will be spoilers.
Marion, don't look at it. Shut your eyes, Marion. Don't look at it no matter what happens.
Don't look, Marion! Keep your eyes shut!
Looky here, looky here, looky here. Let me tell you something. This book right
So
here,
damn good. This book was so good. This book
this
was
book
so
was
good.
good.
Okay, so look, let me just back up. Jeffrey Thorne, if you're here and watching, welcome as always. This book this issue may rival King in Black as far as one issue that is phenomenal. Now, King in Black was a one shot. This is a 3-issue mini. This issue, to me, sets up potential ramifications in Wakanda. We'll get to that at the end, but this book right here, oh my goodness, the story, the okay, look, pull up that first page. Look at the art, the story and the art. Let's start with the art.
All right, hold on a second. Let me you're making me switch things up.
Yeah. And also there are different variant covers. I bought all 3. That's something that I typically don't do anymore, but I had to have this one. This is the A. I think this one is the B, and this one is the C. And what's so cool about this cover, what's so meta about it, is that Black Panther is reading Ultimate Black Panther. How dope is that, right? So yeah, these are the 3 covers. I don't know how many are
You
out
stole
there.
that comment from you stole that comment from my Twitter post.
Yeah, no, not really.
That's
Yeah,
literally what I said on the Twitter post.
I love this red cover. I love this blank red cover.
Oh,
Love
I got that red cover specifically because I plan on taking it to a con and having some artists do some work on it. I wish I had bought some more.
That's why I got it. You know what? That's a good idea. I may do that. I may go back and buy it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things my boy Otis, shout out to Otis Artberry, did is he told me to take this one Black Panther history of the Black Panther book, and he went around to an art festival and where there are various comic book artists, and many of them actually did in various time periods Black Panther art in comic books. So he went to each artist and asked them to sign that book. And many of them did little remarks. They just drew little pictures of Black Panther. So he's got a whole book filled with artists that have worked on Black Panther at one point or other, with all of their signatures and many of them doing images for him.
That's cool.
So a cover like that would be perfect for something like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that's a good idea. I do need to go ahead and buy another cover. I really, really love how vibrant this is.
Yeah.
I like this a lot.
So speaking of artwork, who's the artist on this book, Mark?
I don't know. I didn't even look. I've
You got the
been
book
getting
right in
better, but
front of you,
look.
dude.
I didn't look. I didn't look. Shut up. Don't judge me. Hold on. Where's the artist?
I'm trying to get you to get into the habit of checking out artists
Here
and
we go.
writers, man.
You're right. Shut up. Fareed Karami.
I have never heard of Fareed Karami before. Shout out to Fareed Karami.
Fareed Karami's art is spectacular.
Yeah.
Go to that first page if you would. The very first page.
Hold up, I'm making my drink right now.
God, this is such a good book. Oh my goodness. Okay, so for those who don't know, right? Let me back up and lay the groundwork. You have to go back to late last year when Brian Edward Hill wrote the Blade comic book, right? It was a 10-issue, basically miniseries. In the Blade comic book, Blade had to fight this big bad named Adama. In order to fight this big bad entity, and I apologize for that, in order to fight that big bad entity, Blade had to open himself up to new ways of fighting, open up his soul and spirit in order to defeat the character. Now, because he did that, he has now become the big bad of the Marvel Universe. There are Dark Force users that are out there that somehow he figured out how to make them explode their Dark Force energy, thus blotting out the sun so vampires can walk during the day. So Blade is in control of the vampires on planet Earth. Not Dracula, the king of the vampires, but Blade. And Blade was able,
You left
because
out one part at the end of the Blade series. Blade ultimately may have exposed himself in a manner that Adana may have manifested herself within him.
right, right. Blade is not his normal self. He is not the hero that we know him to be. Blade has attacked Doctor Strange, turned him into a vampire. He and his crew, the Blood Coven, they attacked the Avengers on their spaceship, took down most of them. Well, he took down Thor and Black Panther specifically. He bit Black Panther, thus turning him into a vampire who is under the control of Blade. And that's what we see right now. Blade is back on Earth because the Avengers base right now is a sentient spaceship in space, obviously. And so Blade sent T'Challa on a mission. He's looking for some type of temple. And so T'Challa is back down in Wakanda trying to find this temple that his master has sent him to find, but he's also fighting against the brainwashing of Blade. And it is so very good. It is very, very, very good. Varney.
Pericles Dragon Ball says, I still think Varney is possessing Blade. Wow. Talk about it. Look, Pericles, props to you, man. That's a hell of a reference. I haven't heard that name in a long time. For those of you who don't know, Varney is this ancient, one of the first vampires, like 2,000 years old or something crazy like that. I first saw him in Conan the Barbarian, the Marvel series, where that was during the Black Coast storyline. It's my favorite storyline, Conan, where basically Conan goes to Africa. And he encounters Varney, which is, I said, this ancient black vampire, one of the first vampires. So yeah, cool reference, man.
Wait, so what books? Because that sounds interesting. Because I'm a Conan fan. So what books would that be in? If you don't know off the top of your head, just tell me later. Because I'm now.
I don't know off the top of my head. I could pull it up on my CLC and tell you.
Just tell me later.
Yeah.
I'm later.
All right. So here's the artwork. The artwork's spectacular. There's one scene specifically I want to show that I thought was really, really dope, which is this right here. 1 sec. Again, excuse the background noise. Girl Scouts having fun. So Black Panther returns to Wakanda. He's been bitten by Blade. He's got his he's turning into a vampire. He's turning feral. He's losing control. He decides to go back to Wakanda, specifically the necropolis, in the hopes of ingesting the heart-shaped herb, which he does. Goes through the ritual by himself, in the hope that Bast can help him rid himself of the vampire demon within him. Now, he goes to the Djalia, the spiritual realm. He encounters his ancestors in the forms of these Black Panthers' physical manifestations. And they're disgusted with him. It's like the audacity of you to carry the spirit of the demon here to this ancient place. To defile the dominion of Bast is a trespass not easily forgiven. You have sullied her line. A debt must be paid. A debt must be paid. The title of this particular episode of Wakanda Whiskey and Blerdom is what will the Black Panther have to do? What debt will the Black Panther have to pay to return? The other question is, who does he have to pay it to? Is he paying it to Bast? Is he paying it to Adana? Is he paying it to Blade? These are all questions that are raised in this one issue. But we do know something. T'Challa's going to pay a price. There's a lot of foreshadowing in this episode, this issue. T'Challa's, at the end of this series, I suspect T'Challa's going to have to pay a hefty price on some level, personally, for what's happening to him and what he wants to do in terms of coming back and saving Wakanda. He tries to say, you know, I'm seeking help. I need help to protect the people of Wakanda, to serve as you have served. And like, come on, stop. It's not about you. You're doing this to protect yourself. It has nothing to do with Wakanda. You bring death here. He goes, listen to me carefully, whelp. For when the demon comes to question his thrall, and he will seek you out, he must know this above all else: Wakanda will never fall again.
And the demon that he's talking about is Blade, because whenever a vampire bites a human and they turn into a vampire, the bite E becomes the thrall of the biter. So because T'Challa was bitten by Blade, Blade is T'Challa's sire. So yeah, it's his master.
This last line, as the spirits of his ancestors, the other previous Black Panthers, walk away. We are slave to neither man nor God. Now that's an interesting statement. They're not a slave to man. That's kind of makes sense. But they're not a slave to a god. Does that include Bast?
That's
or
what they
just
mean.
just a general term for gods in general?
No, because Bast is their god, and so
Yeah,
the
so it's
way
just a terms of gods in general.
right, but the way I
So is what he's facing right now a vampire god?
what hold on a second. What so when that phrase is said, I think they're talking specifically about Bast. That's the way I took it.
They're not slaves to Bast?
Yep.
That would be a statement replete with a lot of repercussions.
But he said it, and Bast is literally their god. So
We are not slave to neither man nor God. I mean, it could just mean general gods, right?
I mean,
Not Bast specifically.
we understand that in Marvel 616 there are a plethora of pantheons. There are a plethora of individuals who are deities, but Wakandan's deities are specific. And to me, it doesn't make sense that they would be referencing anyone other than their specific god.
Yeah.
That's the way I took it.
All right, so let's move on. A couple other interesting things happen in this exchange in this book. So he comes back and he realizes that it's not all bad being a vampire. He has certain powers now.
That was
Now
a surprise to
he
him.
can control people with the sound of his voice.
So
These are
basically,
various priests at the necropolis who are chasing him because he's defiled the necropolis. And I thought it was a
hold on,
little weird because he's wearing obviously the
the Black
the
Panther
the,
habit.
the Black Panther habit, and they're still chasing him.
But so hold on a
Um,
second, hold on. So T'Challa, like Paul said a second ago, is in the necropolis by himself, going through this ritual, seeking savior from his God, from his literal God. He's asking for help. And as gods do, they ignore the pleas and plights of their followers, right? So he wakes up or whatever, and then the priests come, they see this person who they don't necessarily know is T'Challa is in their sacred place. And so they start chasing him. So you got all these buff, roughneck brothers, bald headed, chasing T'Challa, and he's trying to get away. And he's like, wait a minute, I'm your king. So he rips off his mask and says, look, y'all need to stop. If anybody has ever seen the series Preacher, T'Challa now has the voice of God, and he stops these acolytes in their tracks. And that was something that he was not expecting. He was expecting them to perhaps genuflect once they realized who it was. But this went above and beyond what he was expecting. And
The other, the,
what I liked about this book so much was action was all through this book. It wasn't just words, it was action. And this is T'Challa taking on one, two, three, four, like 8, 10 dudes. Right now, he wasn't fighting them; he was trying to escape. But this exhibits action, and I really love this.
what's interesting on this page in particular, what does one of these guys says? He says, crap. He has ingested the heart-shaped herb. Seize him. Do not let him escape. Now, ingesting the heart-shaped herb is supposed to be deadly to those outside of, his family,
The
right?
heart-shaped herb has been taken by the rulers of Wakanda for thousands of years. So those of the royal line, in their DNA, they have built up an immunity to the toxicity of the heart-shaped herb. So any regular person, Paul, me, anybody watching, if you take the heart-shaped herb, you're going to die because the heart-shaped herb was raised in
Well,
soil.
I wouldn't die because I'm part of the royal line. I just don't talk about it. But go ahead.
Bless your heart. So anyway, Paul, myself, and anybody else watching would die or get deathly ill if they ingested it because the heart-shaped herb is grown in soil tainted with vibranium. T'Challa, Shuri, and anybody else who happens to be their progeny are immune through decades of their family line ingesting it. So it doesn't occur to them that, wait a minute, why is this dude not sitting, writhing in pain? You know, that didn't really make sense so much, but it wasn't something that nickled in my mind. But it was. This is a very very good book. This is a very good panel.
One of the things before, the various haters start jumping in here and trolls, Herschel, talking about, I don't think it's true that the heart-shaped herb kills people that aren't part of the line, because there have been stories where other people have taken the heart-shaped herb and not died. When Spider-Man visited Wakanda, T'Challa gave him the heart-shaped herb to help heal him. And T'Challa and Peter Parker obviously didn't die.
He's got a factor that has to be taken into consideration.
What?
Peter Parker has a healing factor that needs to be taken into consideration.
Right. That's just. There's a various things that would explain all those things. Kraven the Hunter was basically given some form of heart-shaped herb derivative. It's not been said specifically it was the heart-shaped herb, but it was an herb for Wakanda, which gave Kraven the Hunter his powers, his heightened stamina and skills, and what have you. But there, one of the things is that there may be multiple versions of various things that have been mutated by the vibranium mound, and can cause various things. Because we know the vibranium mound itself mutated the humans back then. So it stands to reason that more than simply just the heart-shaped herb, there are other herbs or things or roots or what have you that have been mutated and may have various properties. So just bear that in mind. Anyway, I digress. The other thing I thought was interesting in this book, and this is the part that I really got, well, let me just mention this. I mentioned that he's going to have to pay a price, right? And one of those prices is going to be Blade. Blade's in his head. He's hearing Blade because Blade's his sire.
Stop. So this wasn't a hologram? That's just him in his mind?
No, that's in his mind because Blade is his sire. So his sire is talking to them through their psychic rapport, or whatever you want to call it.
I understand.
But he's basically saying, look, if you don't do my bidding, I'm gonna make you suffer. There's some things that I'll burn Wakanda to the ground if I have to, if you don't get what I need. So there's a lot of foreshadowing here that T'Challa doesn't want to do what Blade wants him to do, and he's also afraid, and he's already, tainted himself by going to Necropolis, so he's gonna have to pay for that. T'Challa's going to end up paying somebody at the end of the day. Is the foreshadowing I'm seeing here, and I'm curious to see what Sherilyn Eaton, the writer of this story, has cooking.
Hold on a second. Do you see that MasterCard ad right there? Did that pop on your screen too?
The what?
Is there a MasterCard ad that popped up on your
Yeah,
screen?
a lot of ads on this. Sorry.
Okay. Thought I was
All right.
struggling or something. But hold on. So going further into the book, vampires have basically invaded Wakanda. And one of the things that I find surprising about that is one of the things about T'Challa himself is that he is a brilliant tactician. He always thinks 10 steps ahead. Hold on a second. Hold on comments because I want to read them as well. So hang off on those. He's a brilliant tactician. He always thinks ahead. The fact that he didn't think to protect Wakanda from attacks of this nature, I find interesting and somewhat disappointing because he knows vampires exist. Dr. Doom, who is the sole monarch of Latveria and who is one of the top 5 mystics or sorcerers on planet Earth, and he ain't number 5, has protected Latverian citizens from the encroachment of vampires. So if a vampire tries to cross the boundaries of Latveria, they immediately burst into flame with, because he's instituted wards to protect his citizens. I'm really surprised that T'Challa hadn't done that. But because he hadn't, Wakandans are being attacked by vampires. And we see T'Challa in the street trying to save Wakandan citizens from these vampiric attacks. He drives off a vampire off of one lady, and he sees her laying there.
Hold on, you're jumping ahead to the point I was going to make. So here's the deal. Here's the thing. One of the things that makes Wakanda unique, being closed off from the world for thousands of years, there's a mystical side to Wakanda. There are a lot of hidden areas in Wakanda that the outside world has never seen. And T'Challa talks about something very interesting here. He goes, as the energies of the dark force dimension flood the earth, the creatures of the night grow bold, inspired to take advantages, denied by the light of day. I have only the last vestiges of moonlight to guide me this night, no hope for a sun rising tomorrow. The sun banished demons from the breath of its rays, but also eroded humanity's vigilance. Humankind grew weak. Devoid of the sun's luminescence, that soft underbelly will soon become an open wound. So you see this creature come out called the Adze, mother of pestilence, a creature of the night, a demon creature from the night that has been emboldened by the fact the sun is not out. And it's not a vampire, but it certainly has some vampiric qualities where it bites you, it sucks your blood, and makes you into something else. This is horrifying. This looks like something out of a horror movie. I tell you, somebody here made a comment about this would be, here it is, Neon Apathy. He says, imagine this as an R-rated movie. It would be gruesome. Exactly. Blood Hunt is gruesome. Like, this is literally a horror story. I mean, let's not get it twisted. Blood Hunt is a horror story. Surprised he didn't do this in October. This is a summer event. But here's the thing. This is a creature of the night. And then as Marc mentioned, it gets defeated. One of this women that he bit, right? T'Challa's about to drink her blood because he figures she's already dead. What's the harm? I give in to my thirst. Shuri steps in, doesn't allow him to do it. But this is what happens to the girl. She's turned into some manner of that creature. She's not a vampire per se. She's got vampire fans, but she's also got these things coming out of her. This is like hideous looking. But this says that there's other things that go bump in the night that are just as bad, if not worse, than the vampires. Right? And this is stuff that comes out of Wakanda. Now, jumping ahead, And Mark, we can go back if there's some other things you want to talk about, but jumping ahead to the end of the story, what happens is T'Challa says, you know what? It's too dangerous for me to be in the city. I need to go and leave the big city of Wakanda and
Right.
just hang out in the bush.
Okay, so
He
hold
goes
on,
to what's called.
hold on before we get there, because that's like the very, 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 very end. So understand what's going on. Shuri comes and basically saves T'Challa's soul, for lack of a better term. T'Challa's about to bite into this woman. He's about to give into his vampiric nature, right? But Shuri saves him from that because she has volunteered her own blood. In several panels or pages before this, T'Challa says in his internal monologue that, look, I haven't had any human blood. I'm not going to have any human blood because typically humans aren't volunteering, say, hey, Mr. and Miss Vampire, come drink my blood. Basically, it's against their will. Shuri has volunteered her own blood, thus saving his nature. She's like, here, feed off of me, brother, so you can save your soul, so to speak, the way I look at it. And so it helps him maintain his sanity, even though he's under the thrall of Blade and vampirism. So the two of them are having a discussion, and T'Challa is like, "Look, I'm here to protect these people. I am the king." Shuri's like, "Not so fast, my friend. You're not the king anymore." And that's one of the underlying currents about this particular issue is that T'Challa has been away, other than what we saw in the Dr. Eve viewing run of him in that one city protecting them. T'Challa has not been the overall protector of Wakanda the way he has been for the past 58 years. And one of the things that I wanted to say after we talk about what Paul's getting ready to say towards the end is what are the political ramifications of this storyline? Okay. Keep that in mind. Go ahead and finish saying what you were saying, then I'm going to come back to that.
Before I finish saying what I was saying, shout out to Bo Biggs. Appreciate the super chat, man. And because we're talking about Shuri, all right. So here's the thing. Mark's talking about he got the blood from Shuri, but let me jump towards the end of the story. So T'Challa decides, you know what? It's kind of dangerous for me to be in the main city, lots of people, lots of temptation. I'm gonna go out into the outskirts of Wakanda. He goes to a place called the Mitsu wa Dabuhu. Dabihu.
Don't try it. Don't.
Wakandan Nature Preserve.
There you go.
And this made me think, nature preserve. The only other nature preserve I know of Wakanda was done a while ago in another book by another writer. Specifically, this book right here. Sorry for the undramatic pause. Jungle Action 14 by Don McGregor and the great Billy Graham. Now, in Jungle Action 14, which has this incredible cover, one of the best Black Panther covers of all time, T'Challa in the previous issue had just fought the great white gorilla beast. It's like 12 feet tall. And he's on the hunt. Killmonger, just a little backstory. Killmonger, the resurrection altar, and all this stuff's going on. Killmonger's vying for power. He's on the hunt for Killmonger. Killmonger's kind of hiding in this place called Serpent Valley. Serpent Valley. Serpent Valley is the nature preserve area of Wakanda that has been untouched for many years. In this area, you have in all types of climates. You have snow peaks where he fought the white gorilla, but moreover, it has this very humid jungle area where they have dinosaurs. And T'Challa comes across this character called Somber. And Somber is described it looks like a freaking vampire. And look what it says here. Somber does not have to suck blood with any vampiric compulsion. He doesn't have to suck blood with any vampiric compulsion. He is not a vampire in the literal translation of the word. He has merely the ability to drink blood. His humanity reduced to cinders beneath the vibrant rays of his shrine, the resurrection altar. So this is a creature that's part of the resurrection altar, his shrine. And he drinks blood, but he's not a vampire. It kind of reminds me of that creature, the Adze that we were just talking about, right? That we just saw. And I wonder if Sherilyn Eaton having him go back into the forest, into the nature preserve, is going to lead to him going to Serpent Valley and encountering these types of creatures. That would be some dope storytelling. That's some jungle action level stuff. If Sherilyn Eaton takes it there, my hat's going to be off to her because that's pretty dope storytelling.
Yeah. One of the things, though, that basically T'Challa is thinking and saying is that, okay, so obviously, anybody who has an addiction to drugs, you cannot put them in an environment where there will be drugs because they will fall back into their addiction, wanting to consume whatever their drug of choice is. For a vampire, human blood is their addiction. So, in order to prevent himself from falling into that addiction, T'Challa has decided to move himself from humanity and be off in the woods so he's not tempted to go around biting people on the neck to suck their blood and turn them into vampires themselves. So I say all that to say this because this is basically the end of the story. I'm hoping that at the end of these 3 issues, some way, some shape, some form, the current rulers of Wakanda, who is not T'Challa, but their council, their parliament, whatever it is, that they themselves are either killed or incapacitated due to this vampire attack. And the people of Wakanda rise up wanting their monarch back and turning it back into the monarchy that it has been for 58 years of the history of this IP. I know a lot of people take no issues with Ta-Nehisi Coates' run. I do. I did not like it. He's the one who laid the groundwork for them to move away from T'Challa as their ruler, which I do not like. But hopefully, this storyline will put T'Challa at his rightful place back on the throne. And that's what I think this may very well be laying the groundwork for. So that's what I'm really keeping my fingers crossed for. I really hope so.
That's actually a really good point. Crap, where's the page? Ah, damn
That's
it.
the page when he was talking to Shuri.
No, it's not that page. It is. Damn it. Here it is. So I was really shocked to see Wakanda so ill prepared. This is the Golden City. This is Burning Zana. This is their capital. This is where all the high super security
This is their Washington D.C.
Yeah, I mean it's super advanced, and here you have the Hattusarazi. Now we know from the previous run, the Hattusarazi, last 2 previous runs, the Hattusarazi have been disbanded. Right, they're gone, but you've got some Hattusarazi there, and these guys are like, "Oh, hey, hold the line. Use your UV spotlights to burn them before they pass." How does Wakanda not have the technology to repel vampires, like light guns?
Well,
right, that's the first. Hold on, let me finish. And then the next thing is you've got the Dora Milaje you see in this next page, And we know the Dora Milaje they're not really part of anything anymore because the Dora Milaje were servants of the king. King's no longer there. Dora Milajes are out of a job. They were even technically out of a job before he got deposed as king because of what happened in the Coats run. And they're like, we're going to start our own thing and live in the Jabari lands or what have you. So these two main parts of Wakanda's defense, the Hattusaraze and the Dora Milaje, technically no longer exist in organized forms in Wakanda. They're trying to hold their own and defend the country, which is great, but they're not, at the very least, even if they somewhat exist in this new government, this parliamentary government, they're not what they used to be, right? This page is really indicative of how this place has fallen apart since Wakanda deposed its king. Because T'Challa would normally be very well prepared for this. Marc mentioned Cheryl Lynn Eaton's writing on this, reminded him of the one-shot by the great Geoffrey Thorne in that King in Black one-shot. The difference is, same scenario. Wakanda was under attack in King in Black by Null and his forces. But Wakanda was prepared. T'Challa was still king. The Dora Milaje rallied. The Hattusarazi were ready. T'Challa was prepared.
But
T'Challa had a friggin' kaiju robot killing machine that he built to fight the Phoenix Force in the cut, waiting to repel a Phoenix level event, right? Because T'Challa always thinks 5 steps ahead. That's part of his thing.
But go back even further than that. When you go back to Secret Invasion, every other nation on Earth was being taken over by these Skrull infiltrators, but Wakanda was able to repel them because of T'Challa's foresight in trying to plan ahead. It's not as if vampires are something that's new on Earth. It's not something that he's unaware of. I'm sure the Avengers have a file on vampires.
Right.
So the fact that he has not prepared Wakanda and left a playbook on how to repel vampires is a failure on his part. Now, I don't know if it's a failure on the writer's part or failure on T'Challa's part, but there is a failure here. Because further on in the book, I don't know where it is in relation to this page that's up on the screen, but Shuri knows that Latveria that's being run by Dr. Doom is repelling vampires, right? Shuri, as the somewhat leader or someone who is responsible for Wakanda's safety, Shuri wants to reach out to Dr. Doom and say, yo, bruh, how did you do what you did to protect your people? T'Challa's like, nah, he's our enemy. He doesn't say that. But he's like, nah, whatever you do, don't reach out to Dr. Doom. Because if you recall,
can you blame him?
Because if you recall, years ago, Dr. Doom basically took over Wakanda during the Doom War storyline. Doom is not a fan or a friend to Wakanda. T'Challa knows this. And even though it would help having that knowledge, T'Challa doesn't want Shuri to place her and Wakanda in the debt of Dr. Doom. So, this is a failure on T'Challa's part. As I said earlier, he's always thinking 10 steps ahead.
But he's no longer. You're saying it's a failure on his part. He's no longer in charge of Wakanda.
Understand?
It's the failure of the parliamentary government's part.
No. Because as I said a moment ago, it's not as if vampires are a new entity. They are not. They have been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Understandable.
He should have prepared the nation to repel.
It's not his nation anymore.
But Paul, you need to understand, when a president of the United States leaves office,
right,
there's a playbook of things that they feel should be done in the future for the next administration.
Right, but the next president does not have to follow that playbook. In fact, the next president can go ahead and defund. The next president can defund those programs.
Wakanda is T'Challa. Whether he is in charge or not, He loves his nation. He wants to always protect his nation. On some shelf, somewhere, there should be a plan to deal with vampires. You have said, hold on before you speak. You have said many times that there is a mysticism to Wakanda. T'Challa should have had some type of wards in place to prevent vampires.
I don't disagree
from
with you,
crossing
Mark.
their
Mark,
borders.
listen to me. Listen
That
to me.
was not done.
I don't listen to what I'm saying. I don't disagree with you. I think it's perfectly logical for T'Challa to normally, as I pointed out with the examples I gave, normally have contingency plans for everything. But he is no longer king.
That doesn't
Any
matter.
resource,
The
let me
ward,
finish.
just
Any
because he left
resources
the
that he
rulership
had,
doesn't
any
mean that those
resources
wards
that he
should not
had,
be in place.
any plans, I'll let you talk. Let me talk. Any resources he had, any plans that he had, any setups that he had were turned over to the government, the parliamentary government. And after he was deposed as king, he has no control over any of
I
that
understand
or
that.
what they did. In fact, many of those resources may very well have been with either the Dora Milaje and the Hatut Zarazi, who have been disbanded. He
Okay,
was
but
not,
think about
he
this.
is persona non grata. And in
Right,
fact,
I understand
he
that.
is not even allowed to be in the
I
country
understand
right
that.
now.
Think about this
So-
logically. Think about this logically, though. Okay, over in Latveria, what we saw in the main storyline of Blood Hunt, it's not as if Doctor Doom is out there doing his magic as they come. There is something in place at his borders. Doom had thought, okay, you know what? If this happens, this needs to be in place. T'Challa should have had wards in place to prevent vampires from crossing their borders.
They all got fired.
Stop.
They all
Whether
got
he is
fired.
the leader
No,
or
stop.
not,
Seriously, I'm dead
whether
ass.
he
They
is
all
the
got
leader or
fired.
not, those mystical wards should be in place for protection of the Wakandans. Because that did not exist, then that is a failure on his part. Let's go to the chat. Let's see what people say.
Let's go to the chat. Let's go back to, here we go. I Manifesto says, is it a radiation thing?
Is what? No,
I think that's probably in reference to the heart-shaped herb stuff.
Oh, yes, it is. It is.
Because he said, if so, Peter already has radiation resistance mutation. I believe that's part of it too.
Correct. Plus, he has a healing factor.
Sunny Night. Wouldn't the lack of protection fall on the new Parliament people since they're in charge? That's what I said. That's exactly what I said.
Listen to me, Sunny Night and Paul. Listen to me. Vampires are not new. T'Challa knows that they exist.
He's not in charge of Denver. It's Folosade's fault. It's Folosade's fault.
Because of the mysticism of Wakanda, he should have already had mystic wards in place to protect.
He's not in charge of the country.
It does not matter.
Even if he had it in place, they could have taken it out of place.
You're not understanding. It doesn't matter if he's in charge or not. The
yes,
wards
it does.
are
It absolutely matters.
They're spells. The spells do not change just because the Parliament changes. That's dumb. The spell should have been in place.
So is deposing your king protector.
I agree with that. That's why Ta-Nehisi Coates is stupid for writing what the fuck he did. At the end of the day, the ward should have been in place.
You're saying his failure is in not having mystical things in place.
That is correct.
He doesn't like mystical stuff. He doesn't like mystical stuff. He's never liked mystical stuff. He's always felt uncomfortable with that. He's always indicated that he is more comfortable with science than he is mystical. He created a shadow science, but he did it begrudgingly because he had no choice.
His job is to protect Wakanda. Science is not always going to defeat everything.
And it's a lesson he learned, but apparently not well enough. T'Challa has more feline features as a vampire: slitted eyes, fangs, hook-like claws. Let me ask you a question. In that 4-issue limited Black Panther series, that Dennis Cowan did the artwork on, he had that feline yellow eye look. That's how he was drawn.
Hold on, what book are we talking about?
The 4-issue limited series, the Black Panther series.
From the 80s, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. In that, he was drawn with very feline-looking eyes. What do you think of that look? When he has the yellow slit cat-like eyes.
And this is cool because we know why he looks that way. And immediately what comes to mind is the horrible Ultimates 2 animated movie that was just god awful because
Well,
T'Challa
I don't even think about that. That movie
turned
stuff.
into a feline type character. In that, it did not make sense. In this, it makes perfect sense because we know he's under vampiric control. So
I dig T'Challa with the yellow cat eyes thing.
yeah,
I know I'm not. I know I am a minority in this, but I think it looks kind of cool. I mean, I kind of like him having the yellow cat eyes because you know he can see in the dark. Even back in the early days of the Avengers, he'd always talk about I can see in the dark. Like that's one of his things. That's part of his abilities. So having him have the cat eyes, I always thought was kind of cool. I think if anything, if he gets to keep one thing from Blood Hunt, I hope he gets to keep the eyes.
this artist,
That Odze thing looked like a praying mantis.
right? That's what I said. Yep, exactly what I said. Yep.
Or a huge locust. Manifesto said, I opened my red band issue. The one page with Strange's body and Stasis has the guts hanging out. Yeah.
So hold on a second before we go any further. So in the Blood Hunt storyline, right? You've got the main Blood Hunt, but then you will have a red band book that is more graphic than the main story.
Is there a red band book to this Black Panther book?
I don't know. Yes. Yeah. No, I don't know.
I don't think so.
But understand that the red band is not necessarily what happens in the main book, because in the main book of Blood Hunt, Doctor Strange is impaled and bitten. In the red band book, he's bifurcated. He's cut literally in half. That's not really what happens, okay, in the main continuity. It's just something to be more graphic. If you are a collector like Paul and I are, it's good to have in your collection, but it is not necessary for the overall story arc.
Yeah. Hype Style says, hopefully Ms. Eaton will continue to get more work at Marvel, independent projects, etc.
Yeah,
she did a fantastic job. Fantastic job.
This book was great.
I actually reached out to her on Twitter recently, and she said she's down with doing an interview with us. So hopefully we can get that set up really quick. I'd love to talk to her. Like the strain. Yeah.
Because their mandibles come across like this.
Right. Yeah, it was freaky. I didn't like that. Guillermo del Toro. Yeah, man. That guy's horror master.
Yeah.
Indeed. I'm late to the chat. Why is Black Panther playing Blade to return from where?
You got to read the book. Listen, I'm going to stop you, Mike. You got to listen. I've said in this space before, I'm typically not a huge fan of the cross-issue storylines they do every summer now. It's a money hunt. It's a money grab. This has been a phenomenal story.
This definitely worth the $4.99.
Yeah, this worth the $4.99. This one is good. Right.
Shout out to Imani. Says Doom equals sorcery.
Correct. Sorcery doesn't change just because an administration changes. That's the point that I'm making. Thank you, Imani.
Mike Alley-oop, he should have had a contingency plan for vampire.
That involves sorcery the way that Doom did. Thank you, guys.
He doesn't like sorcery.
Does it matter?
Anthony Davis, $10 super set. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, Ant.
And with that, you get this.
Donation. It's a donation. I thought it was the trash. Don't be hitting on me.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Mike Alley-oop, really, it's a failure on all the past Black Panthers, honestly.
And that might very well be true, but T'Challa is the most recent one. It was a failure on his part because here's the thing: just because somebody was a Black Panther, they may not have had the same intellect and/or training that T'Challa has. That's why I'm a huge. Hold on. That's why I'm not a huge proponent of the Haitian bastard child in the MCU, because
I really hate when you say that. That's some really messed up, ignorant statement.
We know that T'Challa is an extremely brilliant individual, both scientifically and all across the board. We also know that he's a great tactician. Mike says it perfectly. It's a failure on his part because vampires have existed. T'Challa supposedly has a contingency plan for Galactus. he doesn't have a contingency plan for zombies or damn vampires, that's a failure. I'm right. Everybody knows it.
Whatever. Let's see. Where was I? Crap. Lost track here. Derek says, "What's up, Vagrant?" No, we saw that.
That's old. That's real old.
Oh, I had a question. To Blade refers to T'Challa as the first of his line or the
I didn't
last of
understand
his.
that. Yeah, I didn't understand.
What
Yeah,
the hell
right.
is all that about?
I have no idea. I was because he said it twice. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Let's even find that line here.
Yeah, it was weird.
That confused the hell out of me.
Last or something like that. It was odd. So let me ask you this: in Marvel 616, how old do you think T'Challa is?
At this point, he became king at like 20. Very young.
Yeah.
He was a young kid.
I would say because he had already gone to college, so I would say 21, 22 is when he became king.
Yeah. He's probably 21, 22 when he becomes king. In Marvel terms, they usually say the rest of the years were like 10-year span. So he's in his early 30s at this point.
Oh no, I think he's about 40.
Oh, they don't want to make him that old. They don't want to hit the 40 mark.
You don't think so?
They'll never let any of their characters go beyond 35. I think the oldest character in that regard would probably be like Tony Stark, who I think is clearly 40.
Well, obviously, Magneto, despite his constant resurrection,
Magneto constantly gets resurrected younger,
does.
so that's
He does.
why he's as young as he is.
I'm going to say T'Challa's probably between 38 and 42 would be my guess. And the only reason why I mention that, as I've said before, one of the main things about a monarch, when you have a dynastic monarchy, having the monarch marry and have children continues the line.
It's your job.
T'Challa needs to be married at this point. You know what I'm saying?
It's literally your job as a monarch to have children and get married and have children.
Kids. Yeah. You are the last of the first. But maybe I don't know what that means. I have no idea. Obviously, hopefully, we'll get that explained over the next 2 books. I don't know what that means. But I thought that was
we got to figure out what that means.
Yeah. This is a very
Bo Big agrees with me. All of T'Challa's contingencies were gone when he was no longer king. That's what I'm saying.
That doesn't make
They
sense.
got rid of all his contingencies.
Because
remember, part of
illogical.
let me finish, dude. One of the things that it's hard to remember this stuff because I hated that run so badly. But Folasade and that whole parliamentary government was like literally turning their back on everything T'Challa did. They're like, you ran the government like it was your own playground. You did everything you possibly wanted, and you had no oversight whatsoever. We're taking all that away. And if you look at Eve Ewing's run, and you see the scenes where she's like in the marketplace of BT, and the people are talking amongst themselves and talking about how the infrastructure is falling apart under the parliamentary government. They're talking about, oh, this didn't happen when T'Challa was king. These people don't know what they're doing. The roads are all messed up. Black market is increasing. We can't get all the supplies that we want. Clearly, the government is not working. It is falling apart. At the end of Eve Ewing's run, Shuri's talking about, yeah, stuff is not going well here. I can't talk to you for long, T'Challa, because this place is falling apart, and I got other stuff I got to deal with. The government is a mess. Wakanda is a mess right now. So that's why it is ripe for this invasion by vampires, because the government is in disarray since T'Challa was deposed as king. Everything he set up has been taken away. They're like trying to do the opposite of everything that T'Challa did to spite him. Because they hated everything T'Challa did. So and on top of all that, who they took Wakanda got so bad. Just to give you a flashback. And Mark, you may not even know this because you didn't even read the last of the previous writer's run. Because you stopped reading it at like issue 5 or something.
No, it was like 8.
Whatever. The issue they went to 15, so you missed out on like 7 issues. At the end of that run, what did Wakanda end up doing? They didn't trust in T'Challa. They didn't trust in his plans. T'Challa was literally trying to make plans to try and save Wakanda, and they said, no, you're dismissed. We don't need your help. We're going to put our trust in whose hands? Namor and the Atlanteans. They're bitter. These are the people that literally wiped out Wakanda with a wave. Namor literally killed thousands of Wakandans. He buried the Golden City, their capital, with water. Right? And that's the guy who they turn to in their time of need to help them with the big crisis going on. That's how bad things are. That's how poorly run Wakanda is. That's how low they're fallen. They can't even defend themselves to the point they're trusting their most hated enemies with their defense. It makes absolutely no sense. But that lets you know how bad things are in Wakanda.
You done?
I am.
Hold on. Stop with the comments. Hold on. No. Hold on. Stop. I understand what you're saying. Okay. I agree with what you're saying. When it comes to normal, natural stuff, if T'Challa's not in charge, things have fallen by the wayside. What I'm trying to get you folks to understand.
He should have had mystical stuff in place. I heard you the first several times.
Finish. Doom has mystic barriers in place. Just because T'Challa is no longer in charge doesn't mean that those mystic barriers that protect Latveria would automatically go away in Wakanda if he had them in place, even if he's not in charge.
He never had them in place, clearly.
That's my point, Paul.
I heard your point. I just repeated your point to you. I heard your point.
That's exactly right. And that is a failure on T'Challa. Okay? It's not an issue of a change in leadership. It's a failure of T'Challa. Thank you. You've made my point. The barriers were not in place. That was a failure. And John Ridley, to hell with him.
T'Challa may have very well had scientific defenses for Wakanda to deal with these type of situations, but because that government is in charge of those defenses, it has clearly fallen to the wayside, as evidenced by their putting their defenses in the hands of the Atlanteans. The Hatsutuzurazi have been disbanded. The Dora Milaje have been disbanded. I don't know who the hell's running in the defenses. In fact, in the end of He Who Shall Not Be Named's run, when Wakanda's literally being invaded again, they literally have citizens arming themselves to defend the country. Can you imagine United States right now? Because Wakanda is supposed to be the most advanced country in the world. United States right now. Russia decides to invade the United States. It's friggin' Red Dawn. Like, we don't have a military.
Time out. For those who don't know,
we're going to have our citizens get their shotguns.
Back in the 1980s, during the Cold War, America's geopolitical enemy was Russia. Russia, in the movie Red Dawn, that starred Patrick Swayze, Charlie Sheen, and a whole bunch of other folks that I cannot remember right now, that was remade in around 2012 with Chris Hemsworth. Russia attacks the continental United States. And you had regular American citizens, not our armed forces, not our police, taking up arms to defeat the Russian army. That's what Red Dawn was. If you have not seen that movie, it's classic 1980s cinema. Highly recommend. Continue.
So that's literally what this guy had in that comic. Because Wakanda had, I said we, wow, that's really projecting. Wakanda had no military, no police, nothing. So citizens had to arm themselves to defend an attack. That's how silly this damn story was. But that's where
That
Wakanda
dude is
is
the
right now.
worst. The worst. The
That's
worst.
where Wakanda is right now. So when the vampires attack, despite the fact that, as Mark says, he did not have his mystical barriers in place, which is failure on his part, he may very well have had scientific defenses. Everything he set in place is gone. Wakanda's a mess, and it's set up to be defeated right now, which is probably why at the beginning of this issue, when his ancestor is talking to him, the Panther is talking to him, the Panther's pissed, right? It has a T'Challa's shocked by the Panther's reaction. The Panther's like, we will not be defeated again. Because I suspect the Panther realizes we're kind of weak as hell right now. In fact,
how many times have they been defeated over the past 10 years?
Think about it. The acolyte of Bast, the guy who's responsible for protecting Wakanda, has been defeated by a vampire, a half vampire guy, been bitten, been infected, and comes to them seeking help. Like, for real, dude? You're supposed to be protecting Wakanda? You're Bast acolyte, protector of the Wakandan people, and you're asking for a help? Are you serious right now? That's the Panther reaction to him.
This is why I hope
kind of weak right now.
This is why I hope all of this leads to T'Challa being back on the throne.
I agree.
I really hope this leads to him being back on the throne.
I agree. I think if he can overcome all of this, this will be the culmination of the last couple years' journey, deconstructing him yet again needlessly, and building him back up to where he is stronger than he was before and takes his throne again. Yeah. That's what I'm hoping.
What are the comments?
More comments. Mike Alley-oop. I think people are missing the point. These things should have long been in place. What's happening now, or what's not happening, is not to get get out of jail card for him.
Thank you.
Oh, big. I hope that they're setting up a story for when Shuri says this wouldn't have happened if T'Challa was king. Yes. I'm looking forward to that statement. Folasade probably had the words.
No, the words didn't exist. That didn't exist.
Just despite T'Challa. That's what I said. That's literally what I said.
No, dude.
Sweet Christmas. Trump didn't follow the CDC protocols during COVID. The plans were there. That's also something I pointed out. Mike Alley-oop, his powers are mystical based. Huh?
Okay, so if we're talking about T'Challa, they're somewhat mystical. If we're going to give it a percentage point, I would say T'Challa's powers are like 10% mystical, 90% scientific and physical. But
I don't think it's 10%. I think it's a lot more. Particularly, presently, his powers are actually not coming from the scientific. His present powers actually come from the King of the Dead.
But okay, so
as being King of the Dead from Bast herself.
Whenever he fought, if he was bringing up the spirits of other kings, I would agree with you, but it's not. He is using his physical attributes through years of training and his ingestion of the heart-shaped herb that he relies on. He does not rely on
Mark.
He doesn't.
You're completely forgetting the Fantastic Four. You're completely forgetting the Fantastic Four 608 or whatever it's called.
Oh, that was 7 years ago. I'm talking about his most recent runs.
When did he? This is the first time you've seen him take the heart-shaped herb in the last 20 years. What are you talking about?
Okay, so here's the thing.
And all of his powers for the last 20 years
you asked me a question.
have been 100% based on him going to Bast and Bast giving him the powers of the King of the Dead. He didn't get a heart-shaped herb. She just literally tapped him on the shoulder and said, "You're my King of the Dead. Here's your powers. You have all the powers of all the prior Black Panthers before you. You have all their knowledge." He's even able to manifest the Spear of Bashenga in light form based on those powers.
He's now the Avatar in the MCU. I get it. I understand that.
I'm not talking about the MCU. I'm talking about the comic book. Fuck the MCU.
I said MCU. I meant the comic book. I understand that. He's the Avatar, the Marvel 616. I understand that. But the point that I was trying to get at is that I don't recall, and it's been some years since I've read all this stuff, but I don't recall him having to consistently take the heart-shaped herb. It's like with Steve Rogers and the the super soldier serum. That is part of his genetic makeup now. In the MCU, we're talking about the movie. Them stripping away the power of the Panther was something I feel that was unique to the MCU that has now
Absolutely.
played into the comic book. I don't recall that ever being the case. Once he took the heart-shaped herb as a young man, when he took over as the Black Panther, that was in his DNA that didn't need a booster shot. It did not need to be constantly ingested. So that's why when he did it
That's
in
that's
this
not
movie,
true. That's not true. In the
that's
comics,
why I said I don't.
that-
That's why I said that I don't recall that being the case. I didn't say it
yeah,
didn't happen.
in the comics, he was said he was taking it like annually. He'd have to take it to get like a booster to his powers.
What do you
But
recall?
here's the thing. Here's the thing. You're missing the point. T'Challa's present powers do not come from the heart-shaped herb. This is a big misconception people keep forgetting. His present powers come from Bast herself, from the Fantastic Four, 607 or 608. I always get the number wrong. In which, after Doom War, when he had already lost all his abilities, right? Shuri is queen. He says, Bast, look, I know Shuri's queen. I'm not trying to take anything. I'm not trying to steal from her, but I really want to be Black Panther again. I want to protect the people. I want to be the champion. Boss says, look, I'm not really to mess up what Shuri's got going on. She's proved herself. She's queen. It's cool. But you're my dude. I like you. You got a lot of potential. You've always been my favorite. So go ahead and keep the party going. I'm giving you this, and that powers. You're king of the dead. You have all of the powers, knowledge, and abilities of all prior Black Panthers.
Okay,
You have all of that. So the powers came directly from Bast.
I understand that. I understand
no heart-shaped herb whatsoever. But what happened in this issue is that he took the heart-shaped herb in the hopes of not only going and communing with his ancestors in the Jalia, but also, he says, it has stabilized the feral nature of the vampirism for me for now. So it cleared his head.
Yes,
he took the heart-shaped herb as a booster to clear his head.
But going to this question, his powers are mystical based.
His powers are 100% mystical based right now.
Can I finish? When I think of mystical based powers, I think of, for example, Doctor Strange. T'Challa is not using, the way I view mysticism to fight his battles. He's using his physical abilities and properties. Do they come from this avatar state? Perhaps, sure. But the way I view mysticism, that does not equate to that. He's using his physical abilities based on his years of training, skills, and abilities. That's my point that I'm making. What are other comments?
Sure, he has lots of training, but presently his powers, not his training, his powers
punches people.
100% mystical based.
He punches people.
What? His increased speed, his increased stamina, his healing factor, his ability to see in the night, those are all 100% mystical based right now. Because those powers came directly from Bast, not from ingesting a heart-shaped herb, which altered his already mutated DNA from his ancestors. It came from Bast and communing with Bast in this particular instance. Before the Fantastic Four 608, I agree with you. It was more scientific based on the heart-shaped herb and what have you in his training, what have you. But right now, his powers are from Bast directly, which is mystical.
He's imbued with the power of bats, but I don't view that as mystical in nature and how they are utilized. That's the point that I'm making. So no.
That's nonsensical, but okay, fine. Mike Alley-oop, T'Challa's Uber seems to be an issue here. Yes, I agree.
I don't know if I say that.
I agree. I mean, him going to them and saying, "Hey, heal me. I'm your acolyte." They're like, "What the dude? You're supposed to be on your own. Like,
people,
you don't come to us because you stubbed your toe."
No,
go man up and do your thing.
I disagree with that. I mean, the whole purpose of to use the avatar as an example, when you can't figure out something, you turn to people who know better than you. That's not hubris, that's smart. So no,
Yeah,
I don't
but he failed.
it should
Understand?
happen.
He's not going to them
He's
for
a human
advice.
being. People fail. And if
No,
you failed and you
that's
need
no,
help, you
dude.
turn to
This
somebody.
is Wakanda we're talking about.
Turning to somebody for assistance is not hubris. Ignoring other people is hubris. Thinking that you know better than others, yes, that's hubris. I don't view that as this.
He didn't come for them for advice. He said, "Please heal me. Please fix the
Advice, help.
situation."
It's the same thing. He needs help.
No,
That's not
there's difference between
hubris.
advice and help.
Oh my
Advice
God.
is actually taking action to
He
helping
needs
is actually taking action
he
on
needs
someone's behalf.
assistance.
Advice is giving words and saying, "This is what you need to do."
He needs
Help is fix
assistance.
me. That's what he
He
didn't
needs
ask for advice. He
assistance.
said, "Fix
And
me."
he doesn't know how to fix this, so he's turning to people who may know. Asking people for assistance,
But he didn't
help,
say, "Point
however
me in
you
the
want
right
to phrase
direction."
it, is
He didn't
not
say,
hubris.
give me a sign and let me know where I
Oh
need to go.
God,
He didn't
that's
do all
so
that. He
fucking
said,
wrong.
"Fix me."
No, that's not
And
hubris,
that's why he got rebuked.
Mike, that's not hubris at all.
Sure. How do we know he didn't have a plan?
We have
We
no
don't
idea.
know, but we know the
Let me
place is
say
falling
this.
apart.
Based on this storyline, we saw that Latveria had a plan. That plan in Latveria that Shuri wanted to model did not exist in Wakanda. Therefore, the way I interpret it, T'Challa did not have a plan for this in that manner. Paul was right. There may have been a scientific plan that may have existed, but a mystical plan did not exist clearly.
I don't disagree with that. I don't agree. I mean, clearly, a mystical plan does not exist. I think a scientific plan was probably there, but Falasadi probably dealt away with it because
I
their
don't know
government
if either
sucks.
did.
Didn't Namor take over? Yes, it's a very bitter subject. And hey, Taylor Love, this is the second week we've seen you. Welcome to the space. Mike Alley-oop, can we get a picture of the yellow cat eyes you guys are talking about?
From the old books.
I don't know about from the old books, but I can show you what he looks like now.
Yeah, that very first page.
Yeah, I think the very first page.
Yeah, I mean, he showed that.
No, here's the best shot. Here's the best shot. Here's the best shot. I love these eye things.
Yeah, that's kind of.
I think it looks kind of dope.
That's creepy. I'm sorry, that's kind of creepy. But you know what? That's kind of what he looked like in Blood Hunt #1 before he even got bitten. So he had
No,
that.
that's not true. He did not.
Paul. He looked very.
It wasn't
similar
until after he got beat.
Paul.
You talking about his eyes?
I'm talking about his whole persona. Yes, his eyes included. Go to Blood Hunt #1, and when he was about to attack Blade, he looked very similar to this because he had the large canine teeth, and I made note of that mentally. I'm like, God, dog, he doesn't look like the normal Black Panther. Yes, he did.
Sure. Sunny Knight says, and this has popped up on Twitter a lot. I remember he was developing a vampire cure in the Aaron's Avengers run. He said he was working on it, but he never really said he perfected it.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Keep in mind you are behind in chat comments context.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, we're behind. That's why we're going through chat right now. It's possible that the words were where, but they needed to be maintained or renewed. If no one was doing that after he left, it was falls on the Parliament. That's what I've been saying.
I doubt that they even exist.
That's what I've been saying.
What you're saying, Sweet Christmas, makes sense logically. I understand that, but I don't think that they were even there.
Let's see. He always deals with the spiritual netherworld.
T'Challa, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Amani says, I'm certain he created some type of enchantment.
I'm not, because
well, clearly it didn't happen because they were invaded.
Right.
When Wolverines started looking different, it looked kooky. I don't know what that's in reference to.
Yes, it's
the child is not Haitian.
He was born in Haiti. He's Haitian.
It's really poor writing, but in the universe, it kind of fits because you can chalk it up to Black Panther's hubris.
Yeah, I don't view that as hubris.
KJ's Kuma. Honestly, I don't mind T'Challa learning more about the mystic arts. As said, it adds more protection for Wakanda. Now, cosmic threat, sheesh, I don't know about that. Though. He was ready. Look, he was ready for the cosmic threat. When Null attacked, he was fully ready. When
Right.
Thanos attacked, he was fully ready.
He's got a
T'Challa, this is
for-
the
he's got
hubris
a
part. This is the hubris
plan
part. This is the hubris
for the
part.
likeness. So, yeah.
T'Challa has never felt comfortable with mystical. He's not. So, Mark, you're right in the sense that he did not have mystical enchantments in place in Wakanda clearly because the vampires are obviously able to get in.
Yep.
I'm sure he probably had a scientific defense, but because he's no longer in charge of the country and half of his army was kind of disbanded as a result of him leaving office, and Namor is technically in charge of Wakanda's defenses, they got invaded. Yeah, shit happens.
That dude is the worst writer in the history of comic books. That just literally makes no sense at all.
Yeah. God. Children born of diplomats are not citizens of the countries they are born in.
She is not a diplomat. She's in exile.
I don't want to even talk about that. Yeah, I think in Priest Run, T'Challa was in his early to mid 30s.
Yeah, like I said, I think he's about 40. I would say he's about 40. I'd say he's probably between 37 and 42 is what I would say.
How old does that make Storm then? She's got to be like 35.
Yeah, that makes about sense.
Which is why she needs to go crank out some kids, but I won't talk about that. Avengers Twilight is the oldest I've seen characters, but that's not canon.
Correct. That's a good run. That was a good run. No,
I thought he had a kid with Aurora.
Does not have a child with T'Challa.
Oh God, that's so well.
In main continuity, they do not have a child. In main continuity,
actually,
they do not have children.
Mark, they do. They do have a child. They have Azari, and Azari is in the 616 universe, technically speaking. We just haven't seen him since he was put in Maria Hill's basement. I wish I could say I'm exaggerating that, but that's actually true.
So,
that's the last time I saw him.
We did not see Storm in main 616 that I recall. In main 616, we did not see Storm while she was married to T'Challa give birth. That's why, I don't know where this character came from, but looking at...
He came from the next X-Men cartoon series universe.
Okay, so whatever. I'm looking at how the continuity goes in the X-Men comic books, the Avengers, and Black Panther.
Mark, that's what I'm talking about.
Right. I understand that.
In the Avengers series from, God, I don't remember, the Bendis series from early 2000s or whatever it was. Those kids from the next X-Men, next generation of X-Men, were brought into the 616 universe. Shortly thereafter,
okay, hold on.
Maria Hill literally says Maria Hill.
They were brought in.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but the fact remains Miles Morales is in the 616 universe,
Correct.
but he's not from the 616 universe.
Correct.
But he's in the 616 universe.
He's in the 616 universe. He did not originate in the 616.
I don't disagree with you, Mark. I don't disagree. That's not where they originated from. But the point remains, they have a child from an alternate future.
Correct. Alternate.
Who is presently in the 616 universe.
Correct. That's fine.
There's a whole bunch, a plethora of characters that are in the 616 universe that are from alternate futures.
Mike, in the main 616
Bishop,
universe,
Rachel
T'Challa
Summers
did not have a child in the main 616 universe. There may be a kid that was brought over from some alternate timeline, but in the main 616 universe, they do not have a kid together.
They do not have a kid in the main 616 universe. That was created in the main 616 universe. They do have a kid that's in the 616 universe from an alternate timeline, but he does technically exist in the universe. Nobody knows what's happened to those kids, but they're there technically. Imani says, do y'all think his role as King of the Dead came into play? Not yet. Christopher Priest said he quietly ignored the epilogue of a story where Solomon Prey brought drugs crack to Wakanda. He said he felt accepting that would be no less than a massive failure on T'Challa's part. I don't disagree. That does sound messed up. The Haitian bastard. I really hate when people refer to that. I mean,
don't care.
It's usually you Americans that say stuff like that. All that's true. However, vampire plans never existed, so it didn't exist to be ended by the parliamentary government. That's the thing.
Correct. That's what I think, Mike. That's exactly what I did.
Mos Shabazz, an emperor outranks a king. Why do you want him to go backwards? Who
I
said
don't
you
care
wanted to
about
go
the
back? When did we say that?
Empire.
We never said that, Moji. I'm a big proponent of referring to him as Emperor T'Challa. They turned to Atlantis and Namor.
Which is stupid.
Stupid. Mike Alley-oop. Honestly, I find it to be poor writing that Wakandans would even fall for that. The nation was like decades ahead of the rest of the world. Impossible for it to get this bad.
But clearly, here we are.
He called him first of the last.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. I'm interested.
We don't know what that means yet. Against America's Constitution for the military to even operate on domestic soil. That is referred to as the
Classic Comitatus.
Thank you. Thank you. Where is TC at now? Who's TC?
I think he may be talking about the Haitian bastard child. I don't know.
Stop referring to him as that. That's
I will not.
Really
I will not. Good enemies allies over
African Americans.
I mean, yeah, but that doesn't make sense. Okay, so America and Russia are geopolitical enemies. It doesn't make sense that Vladimir Putin would then be in charge of America's defense. That just does not make sense. It's bad writing on that other guy's part.
Particularly over a short time period like that.
It's just stupid. It's just stupid.
You know, the what do you call that? Where Reagan and Gorbachev, what was that called? Oh wow. Why is my political science degree failing me right now?
Not détente.
No, it's not détente, but it was the same sort of concept.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it.
There's a word for it. I can't remember the word. But the agreement between the United States and Russia, which technically formally ended the Cold War, that was instituted by Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev. I'm really embarrassed that I can't remember what that word was. That took many decades. That wasn't just Reagan just came into office and it happened. It was a process over history and time and economic sanctions and overspending on military spending and ruining the economy. It was a lot of stuff that led to that. People don't in this time period. T'Challa, we're thinking in Marvel time period, maybe months, maybe a year at most, between the time that he was deposed as king and they decided to make Namor the head of their defenses and what we're talking about now.
Yeah, this wasn't years. This was this is probably 18 months or less.
Yeah, definitely
in their timeline. Yes.
In Marvel timeline.
Yeah.
This is what frustrates me the most about Wakanda. It's never the same government or culture or ideology between runs. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you on that.
It has been for the longest time.
Yeah, it seems like, I hate to use this term, but they oftentimes make Wakanda seem like a banana republic, and the country's been around for 10,000 years. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Bitter political enemies become allies in different. Yeah, we saw
that. That is correct.
Just not this instance is an extreme. Moses Shabazz, perhaps Wakanda shouldn't be pursuing imperialist interests. They don't really do that. They don't really go out to other countries and say, we're going to take over your country. They don't really do that.
But in the coach run, that's kind of what he had them sort of doing. I mean, he had the Wakandans.
Well, the intergalactic realm, but that was a completely different empire. That had nothing to do with Wakanda Prime.
But here on the Earth, that there was a group of folks who lived here, and the Wakandans came and took over their whatever. I did not like that run at all.
All right. Well, if those barriers were in place, T'Challa would be dead, wouldn't he?
That is correct. Yes, he would be.
Well, or at least he wouldn't have been able to enter.
He would have, yes.
An armed citizen militia. I don't want to talk about that. Bass turned her back when Cap whooped him. Wow.
That's funny.
I definitely don't want to talk about that. Rich gave us a bit of Wakandan accent. Rich's Wakandan accent is terrible. You can tell him I said that. I tasted some Larceny bourbon today.
I think I've had Larceny before. It's pretty tasty, if I remember correctly.
Hickman wanted them to have kids, Chala and Storm. That's true.
Yeah, I think Paul has even mentioned before that before they got separated during the AVX storyline, and one of the reasons why Storm didn't want to be reincarnated if she died is because she was pregnant, allegedly. So yeah,
That's exactly what happened with Hickman.
Yeah.
That was after the AVX. That was just a couple
yeah,
years.
correct, right. And Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey have no desire to taste that.
I've never heard that. Anansi the Spider. There's also Chimera, but I'm not sure if it was ever really confirmed that Shala is her father, although she's running around with the Panther.
I have no
I
idea.
don't even know where she is right now. I don't remember what happened to her. KJ Sakuma, my LCS got me Akugan and snagged Little Rock Files too. Off topic, but still black characters. Absolutely, man. Those are dope books.
So
Absolute
Akugan
dope books.
number 2 is going to be dropping in about 2 weeks. We're going to talk about that later on. So make sure that you have Akugan on your pull list and that you guys get issue number 2 because we may have something for you middle of June.
June 14th specifically. I Manifesto, Russia going from political military ally to political enemy after defeat of Germany took very little time. Political interests no longer aligned.
That is correct.
Very little time? We're talking 35 years?
We're talking a couple of years because understand that Patton didn't want to stop at Germany. General
enemy.
Patton
Yes.
wanted
I
to go
misunderstood.
immediately into Russia and defeat them because he viewed them as an enemy. So yes, you're absolutely correct.
All right. So we're all caught up on all the comments. Now it's time for us.
So listen, long story short, guys, this overall storyline is good. This specific issue of a book is great. This book is phenomenal. Okay. 13 out of 10 stars. This is a very good independent book.
We spent nearly 2 hours reviewing that book. We had a lot to say. We still have some other books to get into.
Just 2. Midnight
Oh
Sun.
my God. Jeffrey Thorne says, what the hell is this BCF?
What's going on, man?
We got a little off topic today, Jeff. We did talk about you, Bo, for a little bit, by the way.
Yeah.
Definitely pick up, if you haven't, Jeff, pick up that Black Panther Blood Hunt. Mark had the audacity of saying it's comparable to your King of Black #1
of King of Black, A Run for His Money. This is a phenomenal read.
I think it's good. I'm not gonna go that high.
Listen, because he's here, you're saying that.
No. I'll give you chapter and verses why it's not. Because King in Black was literally a one shot. It was a whole self-contained story. This is one issue of a ongoing series, which did not end in the resolution of what happened. What makes King in Black so awesome is that you had the beginning, middle, and end all within one issue.
I agree with that.
So you can't compare a one shot to a singular issue. That's like apples and oranges, in my opinion.
That's fine, but
that doesn't take away from the fact that Sherilyn Eaton wrote an excellent first issue. It's outstanding issue.
That book was really, really, really good.
It really was.
Yeah.
I Manifesto PCL political science class. Yeah, well, Mark and I both have political science degrees.
Somehow.
So that was just going to happen.
Correct. Yes, exactly. And this author has treated him phenomenally well in this book. It is great.
Yeah, Jeff, seriously, you might want to pick up that Black Panther Blood Hunt.
Yeah,
it's really good.
It's very, very good.
Did you get all the covers?
There are 3 covers. I got all 3.
We're Black Comic Lords, man. Of course we got all 3 covers.
Yeah.
He says he purchased it. Great. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to take a short commercial break, and then we're going to get into our reads of the week.
No. We got 2 more books, 2.
Yeah, our reads of the week. Though that's considered our reads of the week.
Gotcha. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Stay on the same page, man. And I gotta go use the bathroom, so let me find one of these longer commercials. Where's the longer one? Where's the one? Oh, there's one I have to play at the beginning. Jesus, this guy just makes everything so difficult. I'm not gonna talk about it.
What's good, Comic fam? I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with Concrete Comics, and I'm also pretty sure you guys are familiar with Freestyle Comics. Well, what if I told you they were partnering together and give you guys an amazing promo code? So listen, here's the deal. You go to any one of these websites, you're going to save 20% off by using this promo code. Now, if you spend more than $50, you're going to get free shipping. You can't beat this. And when I talk to you about industry standard or better storylines and art, I mean, you're really not beating Freestyle Comics. You're definitely not beating Concrete Comics. Listen, this is not a sponsorship. I've literally read all of these books and they're fire. So stop crying and start buying. Concrete Comics, Freestyle Comics, joining forces. Make sure you use this promo code. You're going to get 20% off. You spend more than $50, you're going to get free shipping. We out.
Of course, I didn't get back fast enough. Incredible. So we'll just go to another commercial.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Danny J. Quick here with Ace Blade Comics. We got 6 issues of Ace Blade, 1 through 6. The 7th one is now live on Kickstarter. We could definitely use your support. We also have titles like Scarlet Ranger 1 and 2, created by Ro Lamb. We got Harlem's Renaissance and the Ballad of the Black Rose. And we got Lumberjacks 1, 2, and 3, which is about an Ethiopian prince who is displaced. And he has this necklace that gives him superpowers that he inherited from his grandfather. But he has to go through several trials to unlock the powers and abilities. So definitely check us out. You can find us at Fourth Wall Productions, fourthwallpros.com. And like I said, on Kickstarter right now. So I appreciate y'all, Black Comic Boys. Thank you for the support. And thanks for doing the right thing for the community.
All right, we're back with our reads of the week.
Yeah.
What do we got next?
So following up on the Blood Hunt storyline, Midnight Suns Blood Hunt #1. I think this is also, yes, this is going to be one of 3. The book starts off basically with Blade. He's clearly under the influence of somebody because Blade has a crew of vampire hunters. Blade has them meet him at a diner. They're like, "Yo, boss, what do you want us to do?" And Blade basically takes them out. That's the first part of the book. And then further on in the book, you have a young lady whose name I cannot remember right now, who was with Blade in his book, who helped him
Tulip.
defeat the Tulip, right? Had him helped him defeat the Adana. And she's basically trying to get a crew together. She goes and meets up with the new ghostwriter, whose name I cannot remember off the top of my head. It's
Danny
not
Ketch.
Danny Ketch, right? I don't read ghostwriters, so I don't know all the ghostwriters that are out there. I know the one who used to ride the motorcycle, and then I know the one that was in the Avengers. I'm not familiar with this Danny Ketch individual at all. But long and short of it is she's trying to get assistance because she realizes that something is going on with Blade. She knows about how he, literally made a deal with the devil and Dracula. So she's trying to gain assistance to either snap Blade out of it or to take him out. And so she goes to the ghostwriter to do so. This book was a good book. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 7.5. Very, very good. I enjoyed it. I don't know if you read it or not, but it was good. It was very good. There was one.
I did
There was
read it.
another.
I agree with you. Good issue. What? I did agree with you. I thought it was a good issue. Blade's friends from the Midnight Suns, Danny Ketch, Johnny Blaze, Tulip. There's one character I'm not really all familiar with, Victoria Montesi.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
have no
familiar with her
idea.
at all. I don't know who that is. Tulip, I know from the Blade series with Brian Edward Hill. Damon Hellstrom was one of the members of the Midnight Suns. He wasn't in this issue. Who also showed up? Was it Lilith?
At the end, but I'm not familiar with that character at all.
Yeah, Lilith is the daughter of Dracula. If you read the Tomb of Dracula series, you see a lot of issues where she's heavily involved. Daughter of Dracula. She has problems there for her dad too. But also an ally of Blade in many instances. They've all come together and say, look, our boy is wilding out right now. We might have to check him. We might have to take him out. Tulip says, look, and Tulip's actually one of Blade's lovers. She goes, look, I had a long-standing agreement with Blade that if he ever crossed that line, I'd be the person to take him out. So that's all these guys. It's all in assessment mode. Like, let's see where his head is at. Is he really wigged out? Should we join him or do we need to kill him? That's where this book starts. That's issue 1. Are we joining Blade in his quest to take over the world? Is he right? Or are we taking him out? Because remember, these are people that have all been touched by darkness. These are not like angels. These are all people that have connections to demons in the underworld. So they don't view things the way you and I view things. They don't view things in good and evil. For them, it's gray at best. There's layers to it. And for them, it's interesting where they're like, well, maybe Blade's not wrong for doing what he's doing. That's actually crossed their mind, like turning the world into a vampire world. They're like, well, let's hear him out first. That's the type of people we're dealing with. Let's hear him out first before we decide to kill him. Because there might be something to this. So that's kind of intriguing. Like, what if even some of them say, well, I kind of agree with Blade. So I'm actually here for it. I thought it was a very good first issue. Definitely intriguing.
There was another tie-in, which was Jack the Ripper or something along those lines that I bought, and I bought issue 1 of that. I have absolutely no interest on buying the other 2. I may get them eventually if they end up in a dollar bin. But
it is a rough road when you're dealing with these crossovers, man.
Yeah,
it's trap.
But Midnight
you gotta
Suns,
kind of figure out.
Midnight Suns, I would definitely continue to buy because I found this issue number 1 very, very interesting.
I'm following the characters that I like, and I'm following the writers that I like. So with this Blood Hunt series, I'm buying the main Blood Hunt book because, quite frankly, it was fire. Jed MacKay is a writer who I've been following in Avengers and Moon Knight already. So I already knew Blood Hunt should be pretty good, and it was more than good.
And
then Brian Edward Hill is writing this Midnight Suns.
Midnight Suns. So yeah.
So I'm gonna get that because it's Brian Edward Hill and he's folk. Sherilyn Eaton did an excellent job on this Black Panther book, so I'm gonna be getting that series.
Phenomenal job.
So those are the 3 main Blood Hunt books I'm getting.
The main ones, Midnight Suns and Black Panther, are the ones that I'm going to get.
I don't think there's any other Midnight Suns books I'm getting. I may get the. My boy Rich mentioned that the Spider-Man Blood Hunt book.
Amazing Spider-Man. It's cool. I have that one.
Yeah, that has Misty Knight in it. So
right.
I need to add that to my pull list.
I forgot about that one. I do have that number 1. I think it was good. It wasn't great, but it was entertaining, and I will be getting that one. So I'll be getting Black Panther, Midnight Suns, and Spider-Man. And
you know what's weird is technically Misty Knight is Marvel's first Black superheroine, and she's literally never had her own solo series.
No,
it's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
she's literally never had her own solo series. That's crazy. Anyway, I digress. Next book of the week
Night Thrasher, this series finally, thankfully, comes to an end. This was not a good series. There's no other way to say it.
This
It sucked. I spent all this money on it. It just wasn't a good book.
I
There's
will
nothing.
say one positive thing about this series.
It's over.
No, there's something else. I said it was going to be positive. One positive thing about the series, it had a lot of dope covers.
I don't know about that, but okay.
I wish the artwork inside the book was consistent with the covers that this book had.
But the artwork with a bad story.
I really,
anything. The story was not good. It just
I
was
wish
not.
I could tell y'all this was a good book. It was not. It was not. I don't like to besmirch creators, particularly other Black creators. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I'm not.
Listen, being objective
But this
about something doesn't mean that you have to support everything.
objectively speaking, there's a lot of things that did not go right in this series, and I'll
It
just
just
be
wasn't good.
upfront with you.
We don't need to spend a lot of time. It's not a good series.
Well, I want to be specific. I don't just want to besmirch someone and say that this book wasn't good and not go into detail as to why.
But we've talked about it before.
I understand. For context, I am a huge New Warriors fan. So much so that I literally own all volumes and every issue of every New Warriors book. That's how hardcore of a New Warriors fan I am. But a large part of that fandom, the majority of that fandom, really came from the fact that I was a fan of Night Thrasher as leader of the New Warriors. He's the one that made me a big New Warriors fan. I loved having a superhero team that was led by a strong, intelligent Black man. When they killed Night Thrasher, I was pissed. I was really pissed. It was unnecessary that they killed him. Having him be replaced by his brother, I wasn't too cool with that, but hey, at least it was something. When they brought back Night Thrasher, I was thrilled. When they brought him out of the multiverse, out of that Contest of Champions book. But it was jarred. He was jarring for him to be in a world that had passed him by. Explore that. Talk about it. Go into detail about it. They didn't do that. He didn't do that. Have him talk to his former New Warriors colleagues, his teammates. Didn't happen. The only person he talked to was Silhouette. Why?
And then Rage.
And Rage. And then they made Rage basically, look at this cover. He's literally Luke Cage. If this book did not say Night Thrasher on it, and you had not read the dialogue, you would immediately assume this is Luke Cage. What's the difference between Rage and Luke Cage? Somebody tell me. He's near invulnerable abilities. He's super strength.
Black bald dude, strong, super strong, blah, blah,
bald
blah.
head and a goatee.
This was not a good book. That's
Rage is the character is supposed to be an aged up child, right?
Basically like Sam, like Billy Batson.
Why not simply just not have him have a goatee? They made him literally look like Luke Cage.
Yeah.
Why couldn't he just be a bald Black dude with no goatee?
Or
that would help emphasize the fact that he's very young, technically.
Or with a fro or a fade. Or
artistically, there's no reason for you to give him a goatee.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have done that. Just make him a bald Black dude with no facial hair.
There are different hairstyles out there than just being a baldy. The design.
He literally looked like.
Good. Let's move on. This was not good.
It wasn't good. I don't. The covers were excellent. The covers were fantastic.
All right, great. So that was it for me for this week. That's all I bought. But before we go into what's coming up next, shout out to Marcus Williams. So for those who don't know,
I have one other book that I want to talk about. You said Marcus Williams. I wanted to talk about where is it? Right here. Edge of Spider-Verse. I have a lot of emotions on this. Not emotions, but thoughts on this. I'm sure the majority of you have seen the last Miles Morales movie by Sony. They introduced this character. What?
Which was really fucking good.
Oh, it was fantastic. I actually, when you do the whole list of Spider-Man movies, Miles Morales are tops for me. That's just me personally. I love the Miles Morales movies. I thought they were goals in terms of movie making
So the
for
first
this
one to me
genre.
was the first one was okay. I mean, I saw it like 2 or 3 weeks after it had dropped. I heard a
I
lot
love
of
the first
hype about
one,
it.
but I love the second one even more.
Listen, I heard about it, like I said, I saw it 2 or 3 weeks after it dropped. I heard a lot of hype about it, so I had probably high expectations. I thought it was cool. I thought it was okay. I didn't understand what the hype was about. The second one that I saw pretty much opening weekend, phenomenal. No complaints.
Yeah.
And
So
I didn't realize that there was gonna be a third one.
in the second one, they introduced this character, this black version of Spider-Woman.
In a movie,
This
she
is
was
a race swap. This is a race swap. I mean, it's just flat out a race swap. It's cool. She's a cool character. This issue is the first introduction of her in comics. So there's that. Specifically, let me just bring up the covers here. It has some cool covers too. 1 second, let me pull that up. So here's the cover for the book. I'm sure Marc appreciates that, seeing a woman on a motorcycle. He loves motorcycles and women with big butts. So there's this cover. There's a sort of general Spider-Verse cover. This was a dope cover.
That's cool. That's cool. I like that.
This is an excellent cover. This is an iconic cover. This would be, even if you're not into the character, this is a cool cover buy. That's a dope cover. And one thing became clearly evident in looking at these is, one of the artists on this was Marcus Williams, who's a fantastic artist. Shout out to my boy Rich. He loves Marcus Williams. That's the one artist he talks about consistently that he absolutely loves. What crosses my mind is the idea. How can I phrase this without getting myself in trouble with the rest of the Black Comic Lords? Trying to figure out how to phrase this.
Say it.
I'm looking at this artwork by Marcus Williams, and all I can think about is he created these. Look at this one character he created. Cool look, right? Kind of a Hawkeye guy. He's black. He's got dreads, whatever. He's got this real funky eye thing. Looks like Remy LeBeau. And I'm like, that's a really cool character. I could see this character in comic books. I'm looking at this Spider-Woman character. Cool character. It's a race swap character, but they made her own unique character with a motorcycle and what have you. Her own vibe. And all I could think about is, damn, this would be cool to see in an ongoing series, right? And I'm like, damn, it's like so much wasted talent. From a creator standpoint, whenever you do work for the big two, you do it with the understanding that whatever you create, you don't own. And these editors can do whatever they want with these characters or not do anything with these characters. They could shelve them the minute you create them. And I'm like, these people made this hard work creating these characters for this book, developing them further in the instance of Spider-Woman. And they're not going to go anywhere because they're race swap. It's as our boy Chillimonger always says, it's temporary representation when you race swap characters. Because at the end of the day, this is just a race swap version of the previous character, Jessica Drew. I wish they had created her as her own character, given her her own name. She doesn't have to be Jessica Drew. She could be somebody else. Just make her own spider character. So she's not a race swapped character of someone else, because this character is dope. And I'm looking at these images, and I'm like, gosh, this would be a great series. Look at how hard they worked on this art, the
One thing that I'll
looks, the
say about the art,
styles.
I have these books, but it's very vibrant. That's the one thing that I will say.
Yeah.
This art is very vibrant. But yeah, no, I'm not collecting that, but it looks cool.
I collected
As
this issue because this is her first appearance in comics, and it was really cool.
as a Peter Parker Spider-Man fan for 40 plus years, he's the main one that I focus on. You know, I have Miles Morales' first appearance, but I've never really been a Miles Morales fan like that. I can't say why or whatever. It's just not something that I was drawn or gravitated to. I picked up the first Spider-Punk book. Was not, I think, what was it, Cody Ziegler?
Yeah, Cody
Was
Ziegler's the writer.
the fact that I remember that on my own, I'm gonna give myself a pat on the
I
back.
was, bro, honestly, I was about to
Right.
give you props
Yeah,
for
that
actually
I'm
remember the
I'm
name
actually
of the
impressed with
writer.
myself. But as far as I am impressed with myself, I
Bro,
was
you
not
know what we
impressed
call that? You know what we call that?
But yeah, the book itself, I wasn't impressed with. Spider-Man Peter Parker is the only one that I'm collecting right now. But shout out to all the fans of Miles Morales, and I like the fact that for a lot of generation, well, for the current generation, he is their Spider-Man. You know, just
Right.
like John Stewart is the Green Lantern for a lot of people, not Hal Jordan, not anybody else. Is John Stewart. So I like these Black characters, even though they are legacy characters, they have their own identities and they have their own fan base. So
Let's go into our chat. Jeffrey Thorne's out. He mentions that Victoria's family used to have the Darkhold. That's that Victoria Montesi character we're talking about in Midnight Suns.
hold on a second, stop. So did you watch the black and white Man Thing movie on Disney Plus?
You mean Werewolf by Night?
Yes. Was Victoria
Yes.
in that at all?
No,
No?
she was not.
Okay.
Wait, was she?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Was
I'm
she
not,
that main female
see,
character?
that's what I don't know. I'm not that familiar with that characters, and that series came out like
I thought that was Elsa Bloodstone, but I don't even remember. It was a
If
while
anybody
since I saw
knows,
that.
If anybody knows, mention that. So yeah.
Head to Keja Kasuma. This is a different Lilith who was introduced in the 90s. So there's two different Liliths. Okay.
Character.
I Manifesto. Like I said Wednesday, that Night Thrasher mini was drier than Popeye's biscuits. I love Popeye's biscuits, by the way.
Yeah, but you
Some
gotta
would take
have.
offense to that. I think Popeyes makes some of the best biscuits out there.
Yeah.
Not as good as Red Lobster's cheddar biscuits, but Popeye's biscuits are pretty good.
Yeah.
Is he still riding that skateboard? No, he's got upgraded to a motorcycle in this.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a spoiler.
The book was just not good.
G-Town Comics, that story when he had a confrontation with Punisher in New Warriors was dope. That's a classic issue. Drawing bald black men was also an excuse for not drawing black hair too. I'm noticing more effort nowadays. And again, I'm grateful for black indies too.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, drawing bald black men is a lot easier because there are some artists that don't know how to draw black hair. There's one artist in particular. I'll say his name, Brian Hitch. There's been social media posts on that. Brian Hitch cannot draw black men's hair. His lineup makes every black man looks like he has a receding hairline. I kid you not. Look up any artwork by Brian Hitch, the British artist, on black men. Look up Luke Cage, Brian Hitch. His hairline, it looks crazy.
I messed that up.
Crazy. The dude can't draw black hair. He can't. So bald head is the way to go for a lot of artists. Is that a black Hawkeye? Yes, it was. It was in that Edge of Spider-Verse book. That cliffhanger in the second Miles movie hurt.
So here's the thing. I had no expectation, no information going into that movie, the second Miles Morales Spider-Man movie. When that happened at the end, I was like, yo, what the F? It really makes me look forward to the third movie because I had no idea that
Right.
there was going to be a cliffhanger. I had no idea that there was going to be a third movie.
We got like several viewers right now. Please, I want everyone to take a moment, help this channel out, hit the like button. Literally costs you nothing. Just take a second. We're gonna pause for a second. I want everybody to hit the like button. I'm gonna wait. Hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, you have not subscribed to our channel, just hit the subscribe button so that you'll know when we're going to do these shows in the future. Please. We're not asking you for anything. Just hit the like button. It costs you nothing, but it helps us out with our algorithm. And if you really want to go the extra mile, go ahead and share the channel as well. Share the video. Please. Thank you.
Yeah. So, hey, do you know? Hold on. Do you know when the third movie comes out?
I do not. I do not. I want to say it was early 2025, but I'm not certain.
Gotcha.
The cliffhanger in the second Miles movie hurt. Yeah.
Yes,
Sup everyone, Chad Kinsler. Cages Marcus Williams. Yeah, I'm loving his art. Yeah. That guy should have been picked up by one of the big two to do a regular series, but Chillmonger, disagree, Paul. Don't put resources in new characters who you hope catch on. Marvel has 10 better options to back. That actually, Chillmonger, I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you. Is like I'm looking at these characters in this book, and I'm like, he's creating new characters. Well, not creating new characters, but creating characters that'll never be developed further. And all I'm thinking to myself is, damn, this is a waste. He's putting all this effort and style into these characters, and they're never going to go anywhere. And that's kind of disappointing to me. I actually agree with you on that point. Temporary representation. Absolutely. Chill is spitting. Is Marvel just so cheap that they just don't want to trademark a new name? Well, it's not just a matter of trademarking a name, but there's been a lot of litigation with regard to creators creating characters for Marvel and what rights they have subsequent to that. I think it's been confirmed by enough people that we've interviewed that when it comes to Marvel or DC, it is what do you call it? Work for hire. You're creating characters that you know you're never going to own, which is why a lot of these creators are like, I'm not going to create new characters for this company,
right?
Because when they go ahead and put it in a movie or a television series or a cartoon, I'm not getting a single penny. At most, I might get an invite to the premiere of the movie.
Think about it as an example. Think about Deadpool. Think about how popular Deadpool is. He's had 2 movies already. He's got another one coming out. He's had several different series. How much of that goes to Rob Liefeld, who created the character back on the pages of New Mutants? You know what I'm saying? So I absolutely understand why creators and creatives would feel and think that way. So, yeah.
Again, everyone, please hit the like button. I still haven't seen those likes going up. I'm not asking for much. Just hit the like button. Just take a second to hit it.
So,
Thorn, Jeff says cardboard. I got no love for Hal Jordan. I'm just be honest with you. I talk about it all the time. Like, seriously, there's like a dozen guys with gray hairs that are checking for Hal Jordan. Nobody cares about Hal Jordan. Nobody cares about Hal Jordan.
Not anymore.
Pericles Dragon Balls. Yeah, that was Elsa Bloodstone. It was Elsa Bloodstone in that television series. Hype Style. Never too late to change her name in the comics, but they have to do it better than Ghost Spider, which is dumb hero name. Option Arcane, Ms. Anansi. I know.
Yeah, I mean,
not give her Ms. Anansi is a no-go. You can't have a white woman name it. Sagoku, South African word. Yeah. No. Those are all cool names. I just wouldn't give it to Gwen. That's not something I would do. Moshe Shabazz Manifesto, T'Challa inherited that empire.
He did. But he inherited his throne as well.
That's kind of how monarchies work. You kind of inherit your legacy.
Yep.
That's the very definition of a monarch of a monarchy.
You inherit it. Yep.
Killmonger has the heart. Ed, what does it say? Ed Brubaker, Winter Soldier.
I don't know.
Yes, that's a perfect example. So Ed Brubaker in Captain America Comics created the Winter Soldier, took Bucky Barnes and made him into the Winter Soldier. He didn't get paid for that. He got a ticket to Captain America Winter Soldier. He got a whole red carpet treatment, but he didn't get any royalties.
Financial benefits of his.
Yeah, he didn't get financial benefits of one of Marvel's best films that they ever made.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they literally took scenes out of that comic book and put it in the movie.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get paid. He doesn't get paid for that. So yeah, if you're asking yourself, why is it we don't get cool new characters in Marvel and DC comics? That's why. Because they're not going to get paid for it. They'd rather just build up their reputations working on their existing characters. I mean, if we're keeping it a stack, just so you guys understand what's going on in comics right now. Creators that work at Marvel and DC do not want to waste their talents and their creativity creating characters for these companies that they're never going to benefit from in the long run.
Yep.
So what they get hired to do is work on their existing characters, which is why we keep getting the same dozen characters in all comics, in these mainstream comics, because they're not going to go out of their way to build up characters that are on the shelf and develop them further in ways they'll never benefit from. They'll take the same Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Hulk, the same characters that we've had for 50, 60, 70 years, and they'll do stories on them because it's a paycheck and you get the notoriety from it. It's a resume builder. And then when you go do all your own indie stuff where you get to keep and control your IP, that's where you can let your creativity free and actually benefit if you get optioned or what have you, which quite honestly, every creator's goal is to at some point get optioned for a film or something that they can make money off of. Anyone who tells you different is lying.
All right. So what else we got?
Gordon Mahan, ridiculous. Check out Ripperverse. Okay. I do have Isom 1 and 2. There you go. Another reason to buy Independence. Yeah.
Wakandan coming out.
Absolutely. This is why we push Independence so much on Black Comic Lords. Because we're tired of complaining about, well, why can't Marvel do this? Why can't DC do this? There
are a lot of black creators out there in other spaces who are putting in that work. So it's not.
They're not going to do it. It's not in their corporate interest to do what we want them to do. And we get, look, if I'm keeping it 100% with you, Mark and I are big Black Panther fans. We are recast T'Challa all the way. Okay. As much as we complain about, well, Marvel needs to do this, Marvel needs to do this with Black Panther, we don't own the IP. A corporate entity does. They can do whatever the hell they want with that character. They can shelve that character. They can turn him white if they want to. They can do whatever they want with our favorite character. And we don't have a say in that at all. We can't control that. And we never will. Because people that look like us don't make those decisions. So yeah, there's only so much you can go with your complaining about, well, they should do this, they should do that. They don't have to do anything but support their stockholders.
And at the end of the day, right. So listen, at the end of the day, there are a lot, other than the big three, Marvel, DC, Image, there are a lot of other comic companies out there and a lot of comic creators that are out there that are putting in work. And this is a segue into Marcus Williams' work. If you check the DMs, I put a picture. In Atlanta, there are 3 nerd type conventions that happen here. The big one is Dragon Con, which happens every Labor Day weekend for the past 35 years, give or take. Another one is Anime Weekend Atlanta, if you are into anime, Japanese animation. One that happens on Memorial Weekend that I'm going to start making a concerted effort to go to is MomoCon, which was last weekend that I went to. That was my first time going. Had a phenomenal time. It was very well attended. A lot of black folks up in there. A lot of black folks cosplaying up there. Paul mentioned to me that Marcus Williams was going to be there, and I think he may actually live here in Atlanta. Years ago, I was given this book by a mutual friend of ours, and I had been for the longest time. This is issue number 4. For the longest time, I had been searching for issues 1 and 3. Even though I've had this book literally for about 3 to 5 years, I have no idea what's going on because this is 4. I didn't want to read it until I got
So hold
1
on.
through.
Did you went to MobileCon this past weekend?
That's what I just said. Yes.
Did you
Um,
see Greg Burnham? I told you to go check out Greg Burnham.
I don't know. I don't. I didn't see Greg Burnham,
That's a
but
shame. He was there.
right. But
Go ahead.
going back,
Continue. I'm sorry.
going back to Marcus Williams, I had this book with me, right? And when I saw him, I got excited. I'm like, oh, okay. Would you sign an autograph for me? He was like, yeah. What do you have? So I pulled this out of my bag, and he signed it right there. And then he also had issues 1 through 3. Now, as a collector, I had to have the complete set. You know, I'm not ADHD or anything of that nature, but I wanted 1 through 3. Now, I'll say this: all due respect to Marcus Williams, he charged a lot of money for issues 1 through 3. Each individual issue was a lot more than what I would want to pay. But because
$10 each?
correct.
That's their standard price.
Yeah, that's more than what I would want to pay for this. But he signed every issue for me. Go to your DMs and pull up the picture if you would, please. And I now have all of them right here. And so I will be reading all of these coming up, issues 1, 2, and 3. And now one of the things I find interesting is that in the CLZ app, I can't find issues 1 through 3 on the CLZ app to add to my collection. Issue 4 is there. And then when I scan it, they don't come up. So I don't know what that's about. But yeah, I am looking forward to reading these books. That's
It's a
him.
fantastic book. We interviewed Greg Burnham a couple weeks ago, last weekend, as a matter of fact. Please check out our YouTube page and check out the interview of Greg Burnham. Actually, it was 3 weeks ago. It's about 3 weeks ago. And he talks about Tuskegee Heirs.
Yeah.
Which is a fantastic series. I love Tuskegee Heirs. There's a lot of genres that I really enjoy in one book. So yeah, shout out to Marcus Williams and Greg Burnham. Fantastic book.
And then he was kind enough, the very next picture, he was kind enough to take a pic with me. Very cool dude. Like I said, this I'm gonna tell you something. This, very, very well attended. Some of this, I like how, again, you guys don't understand just how good you have it because you have a community built in, and it's very easy to find your people through the benefits of social media, right? And there were so many black folks who were there. A lot of black folks dressed up, and the sisters were looking really, really good. It was just a really, really good time. It was packed, packed, packed. So going forward, Memorial Day weekend in Atlanta, MomoCon, MoMoCon, during Labor Day weekend, which is DragonCon, and that's one of the bigger nerd conventions in the country. Along with San Diego Comic Con, I think DragonCon is probably like top 3, top 5. So yeah, but MomoCon was very, very fun. I really enjoyed it. It lasted from Thursday till Monday. I only got a pass for Saturday. I didn't feel like being out there for all those other days, so I just bought a 1-day pass. Went specifically to get that book signed and buy the other ones, and just had a really good time. Just walking around, seeing people, seeing folks dressed up. It was fun. I really, really enjoyed
I
myself.
remember the last time I was in Atlanta visiting you, MomoCon was around the corner, and it was advertised at the time as basically being more of an anime and manga event.
Yeah.
Is that what sort of
So
predominated the
this
con?
event was like it had like a lot of different stuff going on. Like in the hall where we were, they had a section for gaming. Like I'm not a gamer at all, but they had a gaming section. They had live wrestling in there. As I was leaving, they had a steel cage where guys were in there wrestling. It was just cool. It was just a fun time. Just bring your wallet, have on some comfortable shoes, hydrate, get you a camel pack, and just look. It was just I really, really enjoyed it. I can't say enough about it. I really enjoyed it. Now, because this was an anime type thing, there were no panels that I was really particularly interested in. When the couple of times that I've been to Dragon Con, there have been panels that I have gone to, but in this particular one, there were no panels that I was interested in seeing. I just wanted to go to the vendors hall, meet Mark Williams, and then buy a couple of things and get on out. I enjoyed that. So yeah.
Let's finish up these comments again. And look, please, we have a few other people that just joined us. Please hit the like button if you're digging what you're seeing. It helps us out tremendously. It helps our algorithm. We're trying to grow our channel so we can do more of these videos. All we're asking you is just hit the like button. It doesn't cost you anything. And hold out my mic. If you're not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our channel so you'll know when we do these videos in the future.
Yep.
I the Watcher says, does Marvel or DC have a catalog of Black characters they can allow an artist to use that are not? All right, so it's a very good question. It's a very good question. I actually know the answer to this. Yes, Marvel, and I know this specifically, Marvel has a database of all of their characters. It is simply a few keystrokes to simply say which characters are whatever ethnicity that you want, or which characters are mutants. They have a very specific database of all their characters, so that's an understanding. When writers are assigned books to do, Marvel can send them literally links, PDFs, what have you, digital copies of the books so they can use for resource material. That's the other part. But in terms of the decision making as to what characters they can and cannot use, from what I understand in the people that I've interviewed, they you can ask which characters you can use, but at the end of the day, the editorial still needs to approve who you're allowed to use.
Jeffrey Thorne, if you're still with us, if you have some insight, because Jeffrey Thorne obviously has written for Marvel, if you want to chime in and answer that question, that would be beneficial to either watch or another viewer.
Yeah.
What other comments do we got?
At the end of the day, the editorial makes decisions on many of the things that you and I complain about.
Right.
G-Town facts. Jeffrey Thorne, they're not going to do it. Gordon Mahan, Akahan is fired. Absolutely is fired. Check us out June 14th. For you Akagon fans, check out our show on June 14th. Jeffrey Thorne, they're not going to do it. Not going. They keep saying they're not going to do it. Herschel is spitting in that ad. Yeah. White Panther.
Yo, that could have been taken so many different ways until you corrected that spelling. Because I was like, wait, what? This is a family show.
Wow. I didn't even think about that until you just said that.
White Panther.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what they wanted to do, I mean, Casper Cole.
Technically, Marvel could do that anytime they want. We joke about that all the time, but
yeah,
if Marvel wanted, they can make Black Panther white.
So listen, Gordon. So as I said, you've got MomoCon in May, you've got Dragon Con in September, and Anime Weekend Atlanta, I want to say, is in December. Those are the three main ones that I'm aware of. Yeah.
Marcus Williams is based in Atlanta. He agrees. Tuskegee Heirs is a fantastic
I'll
book.
find out after this weekend.
G-Town Comics. What are you guys' favorite Black independent comic series?
Okay, so let me answer this first.
Oh,
I do
wow.
not consider it because I love Philadelphia. Philadelphia is with Image. Image is not, to me, an independent. It's not an independent book anymore. It's not an independent.
It is in the sense, Mark,
To me,
that
it is not an independent company because
I
A, it's been
I
around
heard
for 30
I
years.
understand all your
I was
arguments,
finished
but
saying what I was saying. It's been around for 30 years. Plus, the IP that is associated with Image has transcended just the books. They have had movies. They have had cartoon series. So to me,
that's not how IP works. So, but
that's
continue with
not
what you're
for
saying.
you. For you, that's
It's
fine.
not for me.
I'm
That's not how
talking about
IP
me.
works.
Okay. It is a large company. It is a large company that its intellectual property has transcended just the comic book page. People know about The Walking Dead, which is an Image comic book. People know about Omni Man and Invincible, which is an Image comic book. People know about Spawn, which has been around for 35 plus years, whatever the case may be. They have had live action, they have had comic books, they have had cartoons, and they have had live action series. For me, that no longer means that they are independent. They are a large company. So for me, Akugan right now probably is my favorite independent title that I can think of. No, 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 no. I'm sorry. A Vicious Circle. A Vicious Circle from Vault Comics. That's my favorite. Yes, even though it has 2 issues over the past 18 months, and issue number 3 allegedly is gonna drop in August. A Vicious Circle is my favorite independent comic series. Yeah,
Are you done?
I am done.
Good. Okay, that's not how IP works. Everything you said is wrong.
No, it's
IP has to do with the intellectual property rights that the artist has with regard to their creations. The difference between Marvel and Image and DC and Image is Image was specifically created back in the 1992 to allow artists to keep control and benefit from the intellectual property that they create. So if you go to work for Image and you create a character, and that character gets,
options, and
optioned
they
and
want
made
the creator
I let
makes
you
that
I let you talk. I let you talk, right?
listen, I'm getting to the
I let
point
you talk. I
because I'm
let you
getting
talk.
tired. We've been here
Let
for
me
3
finish.
hours.
Let me
Yes, you're
finish.
absolutely right. Get to the point.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm getting to my point.
creators own
I let you go on a
the
tirade of
the
nonsensical
artists own their
ridiculousness
rights
for
to their
10
property.
minutes.
Absolutely
Let me
correct.
finish. Let me finish. You know I'm right. That's why you're interrupting me
No,
right
no,
now.
no, no. You're not right.
I am right. That's why you're interrupting me right now.
I'm trying to get to the
Well, then
point.
let me finish. If I'm wrong, then let me finish.
Get to the point.
Okay,
The
I'm getting to
creators
my point.
own the
But you keep
rights to the
stop
property. Yes,
interrupting
I
me and
agree.
I'll get to my point.
Hurry
All
up.
right. So
Get there.
the difference between Marvel and DC and Image is that the artists at Image, when they create a book, they get to control that book. They get to have editorial control on that book. All right. To a far greater degree than people that work on Marvel and DC books. Also, when a writer and artist create characters for Image, they get to maintain the benefit of those books. That's how Image was created. That's why these guys, the Todd McFarlane, Jim
Mark
Lee,
Silvestri, Jim Lee.
Rob Liefeld, Mark Silvestri. That's why they created Image Comics,
Yep.
was specifically to establish that parameter, which is now manifested in other independent comics that are comic book companies that exist now. Your Vaults, your Booms, your just Titan Comics, etc. So Image is still an independent comic book company in the sense that even though it is big, it is corporate, what have you, the basis for their creators of their ability to retain and control their IP still exists. That's not the same with Marvel and DC. It never has been. Also, even though they're still big, they don't necessarily have a unified universe. They're a company that has a lot of business. They put out a lot of books, but in terms of having a unified universe like they had in the 90s, where everything was interconnected and this character could pop up in this person's book and all that stuff, That doesn't really happen in Image anymore. The creators may have their own universes, but those universes don't interact. Back in the 90s, we would have the Wildcats could interact with Youngblood, and Youngblood could interact with Wetworks and what have you. That doesn't really exist in the current Image universe.
Okay, so
They don't have unified characters like that. Everyone's completely independent. But the definition of independent really has to do more with who owns the IP than anything else. And with that distinction, Image is still an independent company.
And based on Paul's analysis, that's fine.
It's not analysis; it's a fact, dude. It's a fact. Don't take my word for it. This is not Paul's opinion.
That's not the fucking issue.
This is literally look up Image Comics and look up their charter. It literally says that all that
is a large company. The large company produces.
Just because you're a large company doesn't make you not independent.
I don't care who gets the money independently. I absolutely fucking
everything is based on the money. This is foolishness you're talking at this point. I
agree with you that over an Image, the creators get their own money. They control the right to their property. I agree with you. Marvel and DC are corporate in that they control it, but that's not the issue. The issue
you can be corporate and independent at the same time. Those are not interchangeable.
That the current populace knows about. I'm looking at the overall general populace. People who may not necessarily collect comic books know about Image characters because of the intellectual property, regardless of who owns it, has permeated.
So if you become popular, you're no longer independent? That's stupid.
I'm sorry, say it again.
If you become popular and known throughout the mainstream populace, you're no longer independent?
If I have a company that is not Marvel, DC, or Image, if I am with Vault, that is independent. If I am with Boom, that is an independent company. You know, when what's the name of that company? Oh,
let me ask you a question then. What's the difference between those companies you just mentioned and Image? What's the difference between Vault and Boom and Image? Tell me what the difference is.
Vault, the way I am analyzing this issue, okay? I'm talking about the issue, overall issue. Yeah. Most people don't know who characters or intellectual property that belongs to Boom. Your overall general populace has no idea about that. The intellectual property of The Walking Dead, which is an Image property, everybody
it's a Robert Kirkman property.
Everybody in the fucking world knows.
Pull out an Image comic right now. Pull out the Image comic right now. Go to the first page, look at the small print, and tell me who it says copyright is owned by. It doesn't say Image Comics. It says Robert Kirkman.
That's not the issue that I am addressing. I acknowledge
that's the only issue. That's the only issue we're talking about.
But the overall umbrella of Image Comics, despite the fact that Robert Kirkman owns this, or Marc Silvestri owns that, or Rodney Barnes owns that, that's not the issue.
That is the issue, Marc. What the hell are you talking about? You're being completely nonsensical.
On that banner right here, it says Image Comics. And the headline is whatever the title is. People know that title because it has translated.
You have no idea what you're talking about.
Transcended the comic book page. It is large now. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand.
You literally have no idea what you're talking about. You're talking completely out your ass right now.
With what I'm saying, but I know
it's not about disagreeing with you. What you're saying, Marc. What you're saying is nonsensical, and it's not true.
To you, Paul.
Marc.
Everybody knows these properties. It doesn't matter who gets the
literally
check at the end of the day.
You know what? I would say this. Don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. All right. I would encourage you. Don't take my word for it. But what I would ask you to do is to actually do your research before you start talking out your ass.
I am not talking out my ass. I understand everything that you said.
Next time you go to a con,
I disagree with your analysis.
No. That's what I said. It's not about me. It's not about me, bro. It's about getting your facts straight. Okay. So do your research. Go talk to an actual creator and talk about what you're talking about.
I said what I said. I mean, you disagree with me. That's fine. That's fine.
Instead of just making stuff out that
I'm not talking about it from a corporate structure.
Go ahead and actually.
I'm not talking about from a corporate structure. That's not independent. Boom is independent at this point. At some point, they may not be.
You're literally talking out your ass.
Kia was a startup company when it came to cars, as an example. You had your Fords, you had your GMs, et cetera, et cetera. Kia now is no longer an independent car company. As an example, as an analogy, they are a big car company. Okay.
So if you get big, you can't be independent anymore.
Once you can transcend your independent nature. Yes, the way
What does that involve? I don't even know what that means. What does transcend your independent nature mean?
In reference to comic books specifically, we're talking about comic books, right?
That's what we're talking about. Yes,
we've mentioned several different comic book companies over the course of this discussion. As an example, Scout Comics, right? Scout Comics is an independent. To me, independent means small.
Yeah, that's where you're wrong.
Small. That's fine. That's how you look at it. That's fine.
It's not a matter of how I look at it. It's how the industry looks at it. That's why I said, don't take my word for it.
Image is
do
not
take my word for it.
Image
but actually do your research and talk to people who are actually in the industry before you start popping off at the mouth and saying stuff.
Image is not independent anymore.
Okay, that's fine. That's your opinion.
It is.
It is clearly. All right, so let's keep going. Gordon Mahan, ridiculous, probably talking about you. Check out, we saw that already. Skip ahead. Oh, iManifesto asked, is Black Panther in X-Force? Yes, he's going to be in issue number 2. Jeffrey Thorne told us to be on the lookout for issue number 2 of X-Force because Black Panther makes an appearance. I don't know what the extent of it is. I don't know the storyline behind it, but Black Panther are going to get it. Hype Style. I think Batwing is a dumb name. It is, to be honest. It always, you know what bothers me about Batwing? It always reminds me of the name Hot Wing from remember Silverhawks?
Of course.
The black character named Hot Wing.
Thundercats in the sky.
That always bothered me about the Batwing name. It always reminded me of Hot Wing.
For those who don't know, in the 1980s, obviously most people know about Thundercats. There was another cartoon series which was known as Silverhawks. Instead of being cats, they were avian based. The quote unquote black character, his name was Hot Wing. So yeah, do with that as you will.
Let's see. Cage's Walking Dead, Invincible, Spawn, Image has a good run these past 10 or so years.
Yeah.
Okay. I believe that Lilith in Midnight Suns is an entirely different Lilith than Dracula's daughter. This Lilith is a high-level demon who's a major antagonist in the original Midnight Suns arc. So I may have it wrong. I haven't followed Midnight Suns like that. iManifesto transcend independent nature.
Yeah. As an example, with movies.
Here he goes again.
Blumhouse started out as a very independent, kind of niche movie production company. They are now bigger than what they started out to be. They put out like 3 to 5 movies a year, if not more, which have made a lot of fucking money. They are, they don't rival MGM or Fox or anything of that nature, but they are not the independent movie house that they started out to be.
G-Town says, I should have said favorite small black-owned comic creator series.
Okay.
That's very specific.
Yes, that's very specific. Then Philadelphia, I don't know who owns what over there at Vault, but A Vicious Circle is phenomenal.
Well, that's not black creators, by the way. I'm someone in the NAACP didn't get Silverhawks producers for naming the one black character Hot Wing. But that was in the 80s, man. I mean, I think you just were happy just to have a black face and a character back then.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. All right. Look, we got a bunch of viewers right now. Please hit the like button. I'm pleading with you. Please hit the like button. Helps our algorithm, helps us keep doing what we're doing, helps us to pay the rent at Black Comic Lords. Did you have anything else, Mark?
As far as books, I talked about that. No. And typically, we talk about what's coming up next week, but I'm kind of fading fast here because it's going on.
We're almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
We really.
I'm not watching anything really interesting that's black centric right now. We know I've mentioned Akugan 2 drops on June 12th, which is in 2 weeks.
On my
That-
birthday.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, actually.
Yeah, definitely check us out on June 14th. We're gonna have a special episode. We're gonna get into Akagon. We're going to have the writer Muriwe Ayodele of Akagon, who's also been
Announced as a
declared the
writer.
writer of the new Storm series, right? Storm series.
Mm-hmm.
So
Make sure that's on your pull list. If you have a pull list, at least get issue number 1. Have issue number 1 on your pull list. Have I can't remember the term that Jeffrey Thorne's X title is. I can't remember that off the top of my head.
it's X-Force.
Right, but it's something X-Force, isn't it? Or it's just regular.
It's just X-Force. It's just X-Force.
Okay. So make sure that X-Force is on your pull list. Make sure that Storm.
Eve Ewing has Extraordinary
Yes, I think
X-Men.
that's right. Extraordinary X-Men, right. So if anything, get those 3 issues of books. And one of the reasons why is because when you have something on your pull list, that tells the comic book company that there is an interest in this book. And we need to see Black creatives have more opportunities in the big 3. With all due respect to Tom Taylor and all these other writers who get 3 to 5 books themselves, there's more stuff out there for Black creators to get. So get those 3 books at least: Storm, X-Force, and Exceptional X-Men. So yeah,
Is it Exceptional or Extraordinary?
It's
I
something
honestly
that
don't
starts with
remember.
an E.
It's one of those. It starts with an E though.
Yeah.
To be further on point.
Comics are different. Those things cannot be returned if they do not sell. Okay, so that means that if they buy 10 copies of Monica Rambeau Photon and nobody buys it, they eat that money. And your local comic shop is, the margins are very thin, right? Times are hard for everybody. And so what that means is that it gives comic shop owners incentive to be very risk averse, right? And so you could order a bunch of Batman and you know that every month people are going to come in and buy Batman. It's often characters of color, new characters, lesser known characters where they're like, I don't know, this could be good, but if I put this on my shelves and people don't buy it, I lose money. And I'm sympathetic to that. That's a real assessment that they have to make. So the way that we avoid that is you go in and you pre-order. So Paul goes in 3 months before the comic set comes out and says, hello, I would like to pre-order Monica Rambeau Photon #1. I'm not going to wait till it comes out. I'm telling you now that I want it. And at that point, they're like, okay, let me go ahead and order this. And in the comics world, that is the sale that counts. By the time you come into a store and purchase a comic book, that sale does not count. I know it is ridiculous. It is very silly. That is the way it is. The sale that counts is when the store orders it from the distributor. That is what they are counting. And so what that means is that when you go in and you pre-order things, it actually gives that store confidence. Like, okay, Paul said Paul's going to be back and spend his $5 on this book. So we're good. If we order this one, we know it's going to sell and we can pay our rent. We're not going to be eating this cost this month. The best thing to do is your subscription or your pull list where you go in and you say, I want you to put these in every month for me, right? And then they will set that aside in a box.
Message.
The power of pre-orders. It's your vote, literally, not figuratively, literally your vote for which comic book creators you want to support and which characters, which books you want to see succeed. If you're not pre-ordering your books and you want to do your flex where you walk into the store, you buy a book and then post it up on social media, that's great for yourself personally, but you literally haven't helped out the success of that book, just so you understand.
Yeah. So anyway, look, I gotta get out of here. I'm tired as hell.
One last thought. Trump got convicted of all 34 counts. What are your thoughts?
He's not gonna face any prison time. I'll say that.
He's definitely not going to get prison time. He's a first-time offender.
Yeah, He's a first-time offender. It's a nonviolent offense. The MAGA folks are besides themselves with, gnashing of teeth and clutching the pearls that how dare they convict their master, and Tim Scott, one of the two senators from South Carolina, is a coon beyond coon. I mean, I hate seeing this dude talk. I hate seeing him on screen. It's fucking embarrassing. You know what I'm saying? But I was kind of almost surprised because I hadn't paid any attention to that case whatsoever. I was actually surprised that they convicted him of everything because having done trial work for so long, if you have a lot of counts, and I can't say that I've ever, when I was a prosecutor, I can't say that I ever took something to trial that had more than 10 counts because as the prosecutor, you have to prove each and every one of those counts. That's a lot of damn work.
Yeah, people don't realize how difficult it is to prove multiple counts
Right.
and get convictions on all counts.
Correct.
And this is 34 counts.
Correct.
It is not easy to get a
Correct.
conviction on all 34 counts. That's unheard of.
I'm lazy and I like making my life as easy as possible. If I know that I convict you of 3 things and if run consecutively, that gives you 60 years, I'm going to convict you. I'm going to only draft up 3 charges, right? When I was doing that line of work. But the fact that they unanimously voted to convict him of everything just shows you the strength of the state's evidence. The MAGA folks, they're just dumb. They're just a bunch of stupid racist people. That's the reason why they support him. There's nothing else to be said because he's done absolutely nothing for anybody else other than himself and other than his family. I saw Chillmonger's tweet about supporting Cornel West. Number one, you're not even American, so let's start there. Number two, something I found out recently is Cornel West is from my hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Number three, despite that and the fact that he's an alpha, there is no way on God's green earth that I would waste a vote on Cornel West, despite the fact he's from Tulsa, despite the fact that he's an alpha. He has absolutely no experience in governing. He has absolutely no shot in being president of the United States. So voting for him would be just stupid. Donald Trump is the one who has to be defeated. I don't care if you dislike Biden or not. Especially for the Black folks out there, you need to understand this. We are on a razor's edge when it comes to our democracy. There are several members of the Supreme Court.
Speak on it, man. Speak on that.
There are several members of the Supreme Court who are outwardly hostile to democracy, specifically the coon that is Clarence Thomas and Alito. Okay. They already have a majority in the Supreme Court. At least 2 people of the next 4 years will be retiring, perhaps one of the liberal members. The Supreme Court, the federal court, are what decide that what we in this country can do as Black folks. Specifically, if you're a woman out there, you need to be concerned about the makeup of the federal judiciary. You do not want somebody like Trump to appoint justices who will affect the nature and the direction of this country for a generation. Okay.
Well, let me say one quick thing on this. When I was in high school, I was applying for colleges and applying for college scholarships. One of the scholarships that I applied for was a contest in which it was the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And you had to do a speech before the Veteran of Foreign Wars about the importance of Brown versus Board of Education. So I had to do a bunch of research on that court decision and process. And in the course and scope of me doing the research on Brown versus Board of Education and doing this presentation to the Veterans of Foreign Wars for the scholarship, that's what got me interested in becoming an attorney and led to me becoming a political science major in college and ultimately going to law school with Marc at the University of Miami. And becoming a practicing attorney. But what I learned in that experience, and what many people don't realize when they start popping off of the mouth and saying silly stuff like, I'm a vote for X person who's not Joe Biden just because I don't like Joe Biden, but I don't like Trump, but I just don't want to vote for somebody else. It's a wasted vote. The reality of our system is that is a wasted vote. It's not about who's the best person for you at this point. Okay. It's not about who's the best person for hitting your political views or what have you. Okay. It's not about supporting the Democratic Party. When Marc says we are on a razor's edge, let me explain something to you. You, as a Black person, only have the rights that you have right now to go into a restaurant and order food or live in a house that's nice.
Whatever job that you have, some Black person fought for that job.
You know what all the benefits that you take for granted that your predecessors did not have came from? They came from the Supreme Court of the United States. All of these benefits that you have, these civil rights that you enjoy, you could say, oh, well, the Civil Rights Act, 1965, all this stuff. Cool. Who has to interpret those laws? Who has to make the decisions of Roe v. Wade? Who has to make the decision on Brown versus Board of Education? Who has to make the decisions on Plessy v. Ferguson? If who has to make the decision on Citizens United? If you do not know these cases I'm talking about, you're woefully uninformed. And I would encourage you to do a Google research on that. Because many of the freedoms that we enjoy as American citizens
of a certain age
are based on how the Supreme Court and the federal courts, for that matter, interpret these cases. And one of the most important jobs that a president of the United States gets to do is select judges to be on these federal benches that make decisions for life that affect you and I on a daily basis. Me, you, your children, your grandchildren someday. Those decisions affect all of us for generations. Okay?
I am
more so than these politicians.
When it comes to president, I am a two-issue voter. As a veteran, I want to know how our president is going to deploy our fighting men and women. And number two, most importantly, is what type of justices and judges are going to be placed on the federal judiciary. Trump has already said out loud in public, and his surrogates have said out loud in public that they are going to take revenge on people who opposed him over these past 4 to 8 years. Trump has said, and it has been confirmed by people in his inner circle, that he viewed the military members as suckers for willing to place their lives on the line for the service of every other individual. Why in the fuck would you want to put that person as a commander-in-chief? I understand that you may have your issues with Biden. I have my issues with Biden. But at the end of the day, he is the best choice out of the two to give us what we want. Okay? I'm not going to question your intellect. But if you don't vote for Biden and you're Black in this country, not voting for him is just fucking stupid.
Breaking the capitalist corporate duopoly.
That may or may not be true, but it's not going to happen in 2024.
Would benefit the majority of us, in my opinion.
Listen, that's your opinion. That's fine. You've got two choices.
What's a duopoly?
That's two. Basically what he's saying is you've got the Democrats and the Republicans who have a stranglehold on our American political system. And he's absolutely right.
Okay. I mean, you can technically say it's more of an elite thing. I don't want to get into that. It's Black people vote Democratic more than anyone else by ratio. We shouldn't be blamed.
That is correct. But every vote literally counts. Literally every vote counts. Every vote counts.
Yeah, I'll say just because you're Republican doesn't mean that you're a racist.
I disagree with that.
But what's interesting is all the racists seem to vote Republican.
Well, let me say this. There are not to cast aspersions on our white brothers and sisters, but it's kind of, even liberal white folks have racial biases. Let me put it that way. Okay. But going back to what I was saying a moment ago, the most important thing as Black Americans is our federal judiciary. We cannot have Trump in the White House appointing judges who will affect your great grandchildren.
Y'all got to understand, this is not about sound bites. This is not about getting clicks and likes and cool little things about I'm, fighting the system. This is reality. Okay.
Correct.
This is the real world. It's
Correct.
cool to say in the abstract, well, my vote for this third party Green Party member is not a wasted vote. Yeah, it is, because
only two
you
people
can vote for that, but when the
president.
margins are this thin between somebody who would literally undermine
democracy,
who literally tried to take over the country in a coup, right? A now 34 times convicted felon, right?
Stop. Hold on. Stop. He's a convicted felon once. Okay. And a lot of people get this wrong. Even though there are 34 counts on his indictment, when he is sentenced, he's sentenced as a one-time convicted felon. Now, if he's convicted here in Georgia, if he's convicted on the federal counts, each one of those is
the point I'm trying to make is we have someone who is a convicted felon.
Correct.
Who is a racist, a noted racist, who is
a
noted misogynist, who is a noted adulterer, the list goes on. The list goes on. This is who the Christian fundamentalist says we're willing to overlook that because
he's a white supremacist.
Who's a white supremacist who carries a leather-bound Bible that he bought from somebody.
They know that he's a white supremacist, and that's what they love. Look. I'm going to question your intellect, and you can get pissed at me.
It's no longer about politics. It's about, do you want the United States to survive or not?
If you as a Black person in America do not vote for Joe Biden to defeat Donald Trump, because that's what we're trying to do, then you're a fucking moron. There is no other way to say it. I don't care about your morality. I don't care about any of it. It's about defeating Donald Trump. It's that simple.
Right.
Gordon is correct. There are racists on the left. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's racists everywhere, but you gotta kind of, at this point, we're not talking about politics. We're talking about the survival of the United States. And I'd like to say that what I'm saying is hyperbole and just exaggeration. And it literally is not.
January 6, 2021, these motherfuckers tried to take over the United States government and prevent a peaceful transfer of power. It's that simple. It was done in broad daylight.
In North Carolina, we've been fighting gerrymandering for a while, and one member of the state GOP said they was doing it because Black vote Democrat.
Correct.
That's true. At least I appreciate the person being honest about it. The Supreme Court, that is. Yeah. Don't forget. I step away. Sorry, Jeff. You got two poli-sci majors and lawyers who
are very passionate about this country and very passionate
about the foolishness that goes on, and people popping off on the internet about, I'm not going to support Joe Biden because of, I don't care. I don't care what your line is after that.
Yeah.
Because what you're saying when you say that is, I would like Trump, who has a very good chance of winning. Don't listen to what the media is telling you.
Right.
He has a very good chance of winning, despite the fact that he has these convictions.
Yep.
Don't get it twisted. That man could very easily become the president of the United States again. And the country will be doomed.
Yep.
I wish I could say I'm just being, inflammatory and exaggerating. It's not.
You guys really need to understand how important this is. I honestly don't know, especially if you younger folks really understand how important and how dangerous a time in life that we're facing. It just. Anyway, I'm tired. I want to go to bed. Guys, thanks for watching us. We'll see you next time.
I'm just going through the last of these.
Correct.
Comments.
Correct. I do. My family did. You're wrong about that. I don't know what he's saying there false about.
Dust off that Jamaican passport, Paul. It's funny you should say that, Gordon. I actually have intent to work on getting my dual citizenship so I can be out if Trump wins, and I need to get out quickly.
Shut up. You're not going anywhere.
You're not. You'd be surprised, Mark.
You're not going anywhere.
I'm not going to say it.
I know it. You're not going anywhere. Guys, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. As always, see you next time.
Jarence, you're absolutely wrong. He does have a snowball's chance in hell of being elected.
That's nonsense. He does.
He absolutely does.
You're very scary.
You're not paying attention if you think otherwise.
Right. I wonder if Wakandan accepting Americans, but I think Sam Wilson fucked that up first. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot for joining us. See you next time.
Thank you all. We appreciate each and every one of you. Hit the like button while you still can. Share the video and subscribe to our channel. I know we got off on a bunch of different tangents today. We don't normally do that. I think we're just kind of swept up in the moment. But until next time, everyone.
Peace.
Black Comic Lords. You got it.